Chapter 126. Not knowing how long it took, Wuming woke up. What's the situation? Wuming found that his body disappeared at this moment. Only his consciousness was left. Wuming turned into a card, and it was the most familiar existence to Wuming. I became a class card. Yes, Wuming became a class card at this moment. Because of the Holy Grail and the class card, Wuming was affected by the class card and the Holy Grail, and his magical power was compressed and transformed into a caster class card by this true universal wishing machine. Wuming could clearly feel that he was now in a mirror-like space similar to an inherent enchantment. This mirror-like space was the same as the outside world, except that there was no life. Everything else was exactly the same. It turned into a golden car that floated in a quiet and uninhabited place, emitting a few sounds. Although it's a bit different, the scene here seems to be Winterwood City, as a place where he lived for 5 years. Even if some buildings or terrain changed, Wuming could clearly recognize that this was indeed Winterwood City. The card floated to a tree and lay down quietly. This should be the mirror world of another parallel world. If I'm not an exception, then the other 7 class cards should also be in such a space. Wuming reasoned. This can ensure that no one will get a class card and use it indiscriminately. I just don't know how Mayu is doing. Shiro Amiya. Zelik should have saved him. Zelik shouldn't go back on his words. Probably. Subsequently, Wuming began to explore his current state. Wuming found that he should be able to materialize. Wuming began to try to materialize. Just as Wuming tried to materialize, a magic circle suddenly appeared in the open space in front of Wuming. A white light flashed, and a tomboy appeared in place. Rose-colored short hair and pupils, a black suit, and a tear mole under her left eye. She was wearing a reddish-brown suit, earrings on her ears, black leather gloves on her hands, and a long bag on her back. That's Loon Rune. Wuming saw that there were Loon runes on the tomboy's earrings and gloves. As the existence who mastered the original 18 Loon, he naturally recognized the appearance of other ordinary Loon runes. As if someone broke into his territory, Wuming instantly materialized. She looked the same as before, white robe, short blonde hair, golden pupils, and dragon horn ornaments on her head, but there was some magic power spreading from her body. Bazette looked at the servant in front of him and frowned. She seems different from the previous servants. After hearing Bazette's words, Wuming spoke. Can you please tell me what's going on here? Let me tell you something. Bazette looked as if he was facing a formidable enemy. He clenched his fists and maintained a fighting posture against Wuming. Please calm down, Mississippi. I don't mean any harm. After hearing Wuming's words again, Bazette thought for a moment, then put down his fists, but his body still maintained a tense state. After all, the other party was a servant. Even if she was an existence that could be communicated with, she couldn't be sure that she was harmless to humans. Please don't worry. If I had attacked you, you would have died without a complete corpse. Wuming smiled and said something that made one's hair stand on end. It seems that you are a servant with a powerful real name, but you can't be too sure about that. It's still not certain who will win. Bazette said, unwilling to admit defeat. Oh, is that so? Do you want to fight? Wuming was also a person who didn't admit defeat. Since the other party said so, then he would play with her. After that, Wuming stretched out his hand, and a golden twisted scepter appeared in Wuming's hand. Enhance, increase. As the spell was recited, a large number of giant flames, giant magic bullets, giant ice blades, giant water guns, and other giant elemental attacks burst out toward Bazette. Bazette quickly moved, his hands with black gloves clenched. As the spell was recited, Bazette's gloves lit up with the light of Loon magic. He frequently used fighting skills, and the elemental attacks launched by Wuming were scattered by Bazette one by one. A green vine broke out from the ground under Bazette's feet and quickly wrapped around Bazette's legs. Bazette's face froze, his feet shook, and found that the vine was not broken. He immediately hit the vine with both hands. The vine was broken, and Bazette rushed toward Wuming. Wuming smiled, and his scepter flashed. Bazette punched Wuming, and like passing through a phantom, Bazette went through Wuming. A phantom? Was it just now, or from the beginning? Bazette thought. Then, several Wuming appeared around Bazette, and with a wave of his scepter, 4 huge elemental spirits appeared. Summon primal 4 elemental. The 4 elemental spirits of earth, water, fire, and wind roared around Bazette. Bazette frowned. This guy, is he caster? And these magic tricks that I have never heard of, are they kamikaze's magic? Huge rocks, surging water, exploding flames, and fierce gales all attacked Bazette. Lune runes were used by Bazette to resist the 4 powerful magic attacks. Wuming drew a rune with one hand, and several Lune runes appeared, and Bazette's Lune runes were instantly ineffective. What? Bazette cried out in surprise. Although his Lune magic was not the best, he was still a top-notch talent in using Lune magic. But the opponent could break his Lune magic in an instant. It seems that the opponent also mastered Lune runes. Maybe it's the original 18 Lune. That was Bazette's last thought before he lost consciousness. Wuming removed the 4 elemental spirits and looked at Bazette, who fainted on the ground. Young people just can't take a beating, Wuming said with the look of an otherworldly expert. Then, he began to study the magic that the opponent used when he came here. Kalas, have you analyzed what magic the opponent used? The dragon horn on Wuming's head made a sound. The analysis is complete. The cold voice continued. A specific space transfer technique, specifically used for space transfer in the mirror world. Then Kalas said, with all due respect, Master, you should learn the basic magic of this world. In response, Wuming smiled awkwardly. It was obvious that Kalas had mentioned this suggestion more than once. The only magic that Wuming mastered in the model moon world was the Lune magic and the Yggdrasil world tree, system magic from another world. Compared to this kind of magic that leaned towards auxiliary analysis, Wuming was better at combat magic. This was also the reason why magicians in the type moon world were called magicians, because they basically studied the mysterious existence of magic. Only people like Jiejieli, who was his master in the 14 Horsemen War, were called magicians. Magicians were magicians who used magic as props, and were usually looked down upon by other magicians. Mama, don't I have you, Kalas? Wuming smiled. Kalas sighed as if she had heard Wuming say the same answer many times. I really don't know if this is my honor or my failure. It was normal for the magic attire to be needed by the master. If the master no longer needed the magic attire, it meant that the magic attire was useless to the master and was a waste. From the perspective of the magic attire, Kalas hoped that Wuming would use her. From the perspective of the family, Kalas hoped that Wuming could become able to explain everything without relying on Kalas. This was also why Kalas didn't know if she was honored or failed. Anyway, let's go out first. Chapter 127. Wuming relied on the data provided by Kalas to teleport and successfully left the mirror world. The moment Wuming came out, the mirror world collapsed. Of course, Wuming also brought Bazette out. After all, Wuming still needed this local magician from this world to be his guide to ask for directions. It seems that this mirror world relies on my power to maintain its existence, Wuming said. According to the analysis of the mirror world's collapse, the mirror world exists because of the existence of the job class card. Because Master left, the job class card's mirror world directly collapsed. After listening to Kalas' explanation, Wuming looked around. This was a forest. There was an empty space in the middle of the forest, which was the same as the mirror world Wuming was in. A forest again? I really do have an affinity with forests, Wuming said. He then looked at Bazette, who was lying on the ground. Then, I'll have to wake her up first. After a while, Bazette was leaning against a tree. A ball of water splashed onto Bazette's face. Bazette instantly woke up and hurriedly stood up, maintaining a defensive posture. No need to be so nervous. Wuming was still holding the staff of Ain's Ergong as he spoke to Bazette. Now you can see that if I want to do something, you won't be able to stop me. Bazette seemed to have understood the situation and simply stopped resisting. First, who are you? Then, please explain the situation of this world to me. And why did you come to that mirror world just now? Also, you seem to know about the job class card. What's going on here? Bazette was quite honest. He gave up on lying and keeping his mouth shut and told Wu Ming everything in detail. The tomboy's name was Bazette, and her full name was Bazette Frogomacremies. She was a member of the Magic Association and had inherited the God's Holder family. Currently, the Magic Association had sent her on a mission to retrieve job class cards. This world was indeed a parallel world to the Moon world. There were also magicians, 27 ancestors, various clans, and so on. Basically, it was similar to what Wu Ming understood in Meiyo's world. Class card, a special magic attire that suddenly appeared in the spiritual vein of Japan's Winterwood City. It could trigger the power of heroic spirits. After the Magic Association detected the anomaly in Winterwood City, they discovered the existence of the class card. The appearance of the rank card would be accompanied by the appearance of the mirror world, which was where Wu Ming had been before. But so far, only 2 class cards had appeared, and they seemed to appear periodically. Bazette was the person in charge of retrieving the cards. So far, the 2 cards that had appeared had been retrieved by Bazette alone. Therefore, after the appearance of Wu Ming's card, the Magic Association had once again sent out an expert to retrieve the cards. It was just that they didn't expect Wu Ming's card to have its own consciousness. According to Bazette, the 2 class cards that she had retrieved before were similar to the existence of the Shadow Servant, which had no consciousness and could only attack instinctively. Once stepping into the mirror world where the class card existed, the class card would materialize and attack the intruder. According to Bazette, the 2 cards that were retrieved were Lancer and Archer. Lancer's corresponding heroic spirit was Ireland Son of Light, Kuchurin, and Archer's corresponding servant could not be determined yet. According to the other party's description of Archer's attack method, Wu Ming could determine that Archer's class card was Shiro Amiya's heroic spirit. That is to say, the place where I am now is indeed the parallel world where Meiyu can live an ordinary life. Since the class card has come here, then what about Meiyu? Wu Ming thought. Master, according to the other party's description of the periodic appearance of class cards, it is likely that Miss Meiyu will appear after all the class cards have appeared. Kala said to Wu Ming telepathically. Very likely. So, Miss Bazette, how did you defeat those servants with noble phantoms? Wu Ming was very curious about this point. According to the battle between Wu Ming and Bazette, Wu Ming did not think that Bazette could defeat a servant by herself. Otherwise, she would not have been captured by Wu Ming. Either there was someone behind her, or you have your own trump card. Wu Ming said. There was no other possibility, but Bazette didn't show it when he was fighting with Silent Wonder with real swords and guns. If Wu Ming did not stop at the end, Bazette might not even have ashes left. In that case, it was impossible for Bazette to have a trump card. Bazette fell into silence. Why, don't you want to say it? Wu Ming smiled. Forget it, even if I don't say it. As a magician of the gods, you will definitely use the magic of memory manipulation to look through my memory. Bazette was somewhat desperate. Wu Ming was a little bit dumbfounded. So this is the truth that you didn't hide from me. It seems that I really have the ability to control memory. That is the magic of Yggdrasil, World Tree. Who knows what kind of magic is set up in the game to control memory? I have this. As he spoke, Bazette took out the long, cylindrical pouch on his back and handed it to Wu Ming. Wu Ming took a look and immediately understood. There were 3 stone ball-shaped objects in the bag. These were all noble phantoms that existed in the world. Bazette told him about her situation. This stone ball was not only a magic suit, but also a noble phantasm called Fragarak, also known as Backlight Sword. Backlight Sword was the short sword of Ruger Mac Esselin, the god of war in Celtic mythology. Legend has it that this sword did not require the user to attack. It would unsheath itself and kill the enemy before they could draw their sword. Therefore, this noble phantasm had another name, Severer, which was why it was called the Sword of Question and Answer. It was an extremely rare, noble phantasm. It was only passed down by the God's Keeper family. It had a specific condition, which was that it would only be awakened when the opponent used their trump card. According to legend, Backlight Sword would hit the opponent first after it was activated. It was a powerful, noble phantasm that attacked later. Its normal form was a sphere, which was carried by Bazette everywhere. The production method was for Bazette to drip his own god's keeper blood on the ore and place it in the basement for a month with a secret method. According to Bazette, this weapon that was both a noble phantasm and a magic suit could only be made 10 per year. So that's how it is. Is this the God's Keeper clan? Because I didn't feel that you were using your trump card, Backlight Sword could not be awakened and I couldn't use it. Even if I used it forcefully, it could only be used as a powerful magic bullet. Bazette looked at Wuming deeply. He was indeed a god magician to be able to knock her unconscious without using his trump card. That was just a coincidence. Who asked you to use the loon magic in front of me? One of the magic tricks I'm best at is the loon magic, said Wuming. So, what are your plans now, Ms. Bazette? Chapter 128. If you want to let me go, you don't have to say that, Bazette said calmly. Wuming smiled and said, Well, I'll let you go, but you're not allowed to report my existence to the higher-ups. Bazette frowned and then said, I'm here to perform the task of recovering the rank card. If I don't report your existence, then what about your rank card? Regarding this point, Wuming had long thought of it. Create green item, advanced item creation. Wuming took a card with nothing printed on it and handed it to Bazette. Then Wuming said, You tell those higher-ups that the heroic spirit power inside the rank card went berserk and self-destructed. After the explosion, only this rank card was left. Bazette looked at the rank card and put it away. Although this reason is barely passable, what about the self-destruct? For Bazette's question, Wuming replied, Leave it to me, you don't have to worry about it. After discussing the matter, Bazette left directly. Wuming used fly and floated to the sky. Black hole. The ground where the mirror world was previously located was smashed and sucked in by the black hole used by Wuming, leaving a large pit in place. Of course, Wuming didn't want to cause any panic. After all, Wuming didn't want to cause any panic. Then, Wuming left directly. Bazette had returned. She had already set up a barrier around the forest for idle people to disperse. Before ensuring that the crater was repaired, ordinary people would not be able to enter. Bazette looked at her shriveled, long cloth bag. The backlight sword in it was taken away by Wuming. But in exchange, Wuming took out an engraved stone, which was engraved with a rune second only to the 18 primordial rune. It's not a loss, and it seems like the other party is easy to talk to. However, we still have to find out the other party's real name. Golden hair and golden eyes. I remember that it's similar to Mesopotamia's mythological system. I'll start looking for it when I get back. After saying that, Bazette left again. The silent forest was originally very quiet at night, but because of the destruction, it became even more eerie and terrifying. However, no one would come here. 3 days later, Wuming sat on a huge rock on Yuanzhong Mountain, a mountain next to Winterwood City. There are no traces of Meiyu and the other 5 class cards. Could they have appeared in other areas, or would they appear according to time? In the past 3 days, Wuming had explored the entire Winterwood City, including some of the areas around Winterwood City, but he still hadn't found any information related to the class card or Meiyu. The only place with any information was the underground of Yuanzhong Mountain. Wuming could feel that there was a huge amount of magic sealed below, and his initial guess was that it was the Great Holy Grail. Although the magic was abundant, its aura was different from Meiyu's. Therefore, Wuming didn't think that the Great Holy Grail below was Meiyu. Maybe it's the Great Holy Grail of this world. Wuming thought, because he was unfamiliar with this place. Wuming had been using the stealth spell of Yggdrasil to effectively avoid winter with city's magicians. Wuming didn't want to expose his identity, so Wuming didn't directly break the seal of the Great Holy Grail under Yuanzhong Mountain. However, Wuming was still worried about Meiyu, so he decided to explore the Great Holy Grail under Yuanzhong Mountain. However, the test results showed that it was just an ordinary magic crystal without any signs of life, which was why Wuming was sitting there so leisurely. Then, since I'm free, I can study this backlight sword. As he spoke, Wuming opened the golden ripples and spat out a fist-sized stone ball. Wuming still remembered what Bazette had said 3 nights ago when he was being interrogated by Wuming. If the enemy uses a trump card, the backlight sword will produce a wave, and I can use the backlight sword's late to attack first condition to cancel the enemy's attack and hit the enemy first. But if the enemy doesn't use a trump card, the backlight sword won't be effective and can only be used as an ordinary C or D grade magic bullet relic. Coincidentally, Wuming did not think that using the Yggdrasil World Tree spell was a trump card. It was just a simple spell, so it could not cause Bazit's backlight sword to be activated. Moreover, other than the backlight sword and combat skills, Bazit was only good at Loon magic. That was why Wuming was able to break Bazit's Loon magic in an instant and hit Bazit's head, knocking him unconscious. Of course, Bazit still knew basic magic, such as dispelling idle people. Wuming picked up the stone orb, and his mana seeped into the stone orb as he observed it. Kalas, provide assistance. Yes, master. As soon as Wuming's voice fell, a gush of mana emerged from his body and attached to the stone ball. Wuming closed his eyes and felt the space inside the stone ball. After a while, smoke rose from the stone ball. As time passed, more and more smoke rose. In the end, the stone ball was like a broken machine, smoking all over. Wuming opened his eyes and threw the broken stone ball on the ground. As expected of a late start but early start relic, a relic passed down from the god's generation to the present. Wuming relied on Kalas, helped to study the knowledge of reversing causality in the stone ball. Wuming found that causality was not that easy to understand, so after completely destroying the backlight sword, he gave up on studying it. The backlight sword, as the name suggested, was a sword that reversed time, the divine sword of the sun god Luge. I'm really curious about the relationship between the Godsholder family and those gods. By the way, the Godsholder family didn't refer to a single family. Instead, it referred to the families that had passed down the mysteries of the gods. They stored the mysteries of the gods in the form of pathogens in their blood and passed it down through their descendants. Moreover, the mysteries passed down by the gods' generation differed greatly. For example, the backlight sword that Bazit was able to create, the Fragarak of the war god was only passed down the method to create it, not the relic itself. By dripping blood on a special and placing it in a basement for a month, the backlight sword would automatically be created. But even with such simple conditions, it was possible to create a relic that could even kill a servant for a human to use. Forget it, this is giving me a headache. Let's not think about this for now. I have to find a place to stay. After all, he did not know when the other class cards in Mayu would appear, so he had to find a place to stay first. Chapter 129. After Wuming left Yuanzhong Mountain, he walked on the streets of Winterwood City. At this moment, Wuming had already turned his hair black. After all, he wanted to keep a low profile. A blonde foreigner was always very conspicuous. Looking at the familiar yet unfamiliar streets of Winterwood City, Wuming sighed. Thinking about it, I really miss it. After all, Wuming had lived a peaceful life for 5 years. With Wuming's identity, he probably wouldn't be able to live a peaceful life for the rest of his life. Wuming also went to the original address of the Amiya mansion. It was just a wasteland in this world. Moreover, Winterwood City in this world wasn't destroyed. Wuming investigated the Great Holy Grail and learned that the magic power of the Great Holy Grail had existed for nearly 70 years. In other words, the Fourth Holy Grail War didn't happen at all. Moreover, the Great Holy Grail had been sealed and turned into a simple magic crystal under Yuanzhong Mountain. Although he didn't know why this world didn't have a Holy Grail War, it was undoubtedly a good thing, whether it was for Wuming or Mayu. A world without a Holy Grail War could be said to be relatively safe, even if the 72 ancestors existed. Thinking about this, Wuming subconsciously walked to the food market that he used to frequent. A familiar voice came. Brother Amiya, come again next time. Thank you very much, Mr. Store Manager. Wuming looked at the source of the voice. As a frequent customer, Wuming naturally knew the store manager. And standing in front of the store manager was a red-haired young man. Shiro. Hearing someone call his name, Shiro Amiya turned his head and looked at Wuming. You are? Wu Ming smiled when he saw the face that was exactly the same as Wei Gong Shiro's, but slightly immature face. On the streets of the residential area, Shiro Amiya and Wu Ming walked side by side. Mr. Wu Ming, do I know you? Even so, Shiro Amiya still took Wu Ming home. Wu Ming only said, "It just so happens that I don't have a place to stay now. I'll stay at your place for a few nights." After all, Wu Ming knew Shiro Amiya very well. In the world of Meiyu, apart from his identity as a magician, Shiro Amiya was simply a good person. Therefore, Wu Ming believed that this world Shiro Amiya's personality should be the same. This led to the scene just now. "Shiro is really forgetful. We've met before, and you even affectionately call me Big Brother." Is that so? Then Big Brother. Yes, Shiro, what's the matter? Shiro Amiya looked at Wu Ming, who didn't let him speak at all. He wiped the non-existent sweat and felt a little powerless. I have a sister and 2 nannies at home. It may be a little inconvenient. I hope Big Brother doesn't mind." When he heard Shiro Amiya say that he had a sister, Wu Ming's eyes lit up. Then Wu Ming asked, "What about your parents? Are they not at home?" Shiro Amiya and Wu Ming turned the corner. Then Shiro Amiya explained, "They're often not at home because of work. They have been traveling abroad, so there's only me, my sister, and 2 aunts at home. I'm really looking forward to it." Shiro Amiya looked at Wu Ming in confusion. "Mr. Wu Ming, what are you looking forward to?" In response, Wu Ming said with a nostalgic expression, "Because I also have a cute sister." Then Wu Ming said, "Also, I told you to call me Big Brother. Why are you calling me Mr. Wu Ming?" Then he looked at Shiro Amiya with a penetrating gaze. Shiro Amiya quickly said, I know, Big Brother." The two chatted. After a few minutes of walking, Shiro Amiya stopped in front of a small house. "Big Brother, this is my home," Shiro Amiya said. Looking at this ordinary 2-story house, Wu Ming thought in his heart. Sure enough, Shiro Amiya in this world lives an ordinary life. I just don't know if Shiro Amiya in this world's sister is Meiyu. "Big Brother?" Wu Ming came back to his senses and looked at Shiro Amiya. Sorry, I was thinking about something just now," Wu Ming said apologetically. "It's okay, let's go in." Then, Wu Ming followed Shiro Amiya into the house. "I'm back, Aunt Sela," Shiro Amiya shouted, and then began to change his shoes. "Shiro-kun, are you back?" A beautiful woman dressed in a housewife's outfit walked out. Short white hair, tied in a ponytail, placed in front of her chest, red pupils. Looking at the red pupils, Wu Ming thought of Sieg. According to Wu Ming's understanding, Sieg was made according to the androids of the house of Einstein Barons. It seems that this world is not so ordinary. Wu Ming thought, "This is..." Sela saw Wu Ming standing behind Shiro Amiya and asked in confusion, "Nice to meet you, beautiful lady. I'm Shiro's brother when he was a child," Wu Ming said gracefully. "Shiro-kun's brother? How come I've never heard of this?" Sela pointed her finger to her cheek, looking very puzzled. In short, my brother's going to stay in our house for a few days. Sorry to trouble you, Aunt Sela." Shiro Amiya quickly helped Wu Ming to smooth things over. "Since Shiro has said so, well, I'll go and tidy up the room." After that, Sela walked into the room. It's really strange. Logically speaking, Aunt Sela shouldn't have agreed so easily. Wei Gongshi scratched his head and said with some doubt, "Well, maybe I'm more polite," Wu Ming said with a smile. In fact, Wu Ming used magic similar to mental interference to slightly influence Sela and make her feel that this matter is normal. Shiro Amiya said, "Brother." With a voice like an aureole, a young figure ran over from the living room. A child with red eyes, white skin, and long silver white hair ran over. She was wearing a one-piece dress. "Isn't that Meiyu?" Wu Ming saw the child, and there was a slight disappointment in his eyes. "Ilya, I'm back," Shiro Amiya said to Ilya. "Well, welcome back, brother," Ilya said cutely. "This Big Brother is..." Ilya looked at Wu Ming and asked Shiro Amiya. Shiro Amiya told Ilya what Wu Ming said before. Ilya, who was still an elementary school student, didn't think too much about it. In addition, with Wu Ming's mental interference, Ilya didn't care. "Hello, Big Brother." I'm Ilya Phil von Einstein-Baron. Sure enough, it's the house of Einstein-Barons. Seeing Wuming not speak, Shiro Amiya thought that Wuming was wondering why his surname was not the same as Ilya's. Then he explained, "Brother, because I was adopted by Ilya's parents, I followed Ilya's father's surname Amiya." Wuming smiled. "There's no need to explain. I just thought of my sister. I haven't seen her for a while and miss her a little." "Does Big Brother also have a sister?" Ilya asked. Chapter 130. That's right. She's a child as cute as you. If you two meet, I believe you two will definitely become good friends," Wuming said to Ilya with a smile. Ilya blushed from Wuming's praise and didn't say anything else. Afterward, Sela tidied up her room. "Mr. Wuming, do you need any daily necessities? It's not too late now, and I'm going out. I can help you buy them," Sela said gently. "Just call me Wuming. We are about the same age. You are Shiro's guardian, and I am Shiro's elder brother. You and I can address each other as equals. I'll have to trouble you with the daily necessities, Miss Sela," Wuming said very gently. How can I do that?" "Then I'll accept. Wuming, you can also call me Sela." The conversation between Wuming and Sela surprised Shiro, Amiya, and Ilya. After all, they had just met for less than an hour, and they were actually so familiar with each other. Sela went out, and Shiro Amiya went to the kitchen to prepare dinner. Wuming and Ilya went to the living room together. At this moment, Wuming discovered that a graceful woman was lying on the sofa in the living room. Her silver-white hair was lazily draped over her shoulders, and her red pupils were bored to death watching TV. Her upper body was wearing a loose, short-sleeved top that exposed her back and shoulders. Her voluptuous breasts were on the verge of popping out. Her lower body was only wearing a pair of denim shorts, and her white thighs were exposed to the air. "Big sister Liz, a guest is here," Ilya reminded. After all, she also discovered that her big sister Liz's clothes were a bit revealing. Oh, it's Ilya. What's wrong?" Liz said without turning her head, not caring that her spring scenery was seen by Wuming. "It's Big Brother Shiro's big brother. He wants to stay at our house for a few days," Ilya hurriedly said. She turned to look at Wuming, her emotionless eyes revealing a trace of curiosity. "Shiro's big brother? Welcome, welcome." The rather cold voice didn't let Wuming know that it was welcoming him, but Wuming still smiled. "Nice to meet you, beautiful lady. Just call me Wuming." "Nice to meet you. My name is Lizelet." Lizelet turned her head back and continued watching the anime on the television. Elia's shoulders drooped helplessly as she cautiously said to Wuming, Big brother, don't mind her. That's just how Sister Lilith is." Facing Ilya's apologetic words, Wuming shook his head. "I don't mind. Rather, I should say that Miss Lizelet is very interesting." Is that so?" "Big brother, as long as you're satisfied," Ilya said helplessly. "Okay, Ilya, I'm going to see if I can help Shiro. You can go do your own thing. There's no need to accompany me," Wuming said. Big brother can cook too?" Ilya raised her small head and asked. "Of course. No matter what, I have a younger sister. How can I not practice my cooking skills?" Wuming said solemnly. Then, Wuming came to the kitchen. "Big brother, why are you here?" Shiro Amiya, who was wearing an apron, asked in surprise. "Of course, I'm here to cook tonight's dinner." Then, under Shiro Amiya's surprised gaze, Wuming and Shiro Amiya prepared dinner for today's house of Einstein Barons. When all the dishes were placed on the table, Ilya and Sela were stunned. Now, there were many exquisite dishes on the table. Just by looking at them and smelling them, the two of them had already fallen in love. Did Big Brother make all these?" Ilya asked with sparkling eyes. "Shiro and I made them together." Wuming smiled. Shiro Amiya was a little embarrassed. After all, although Shiro Amiya also made some dishes, Wuming made most of them. In fact, no one would feel that there was anything wrong with taking away Shiro Amiya's dishes. After all, compared to Wuming's cooking, Shiro Amiya's cooking was still too tender. "I'm the person in charge of taking care of Ilya's meals and Mayo's meals for so long. If I can't make such dishes, then the name of the root dragon will cry." That was what Wuming thought. But Wuming often slacked off when he was in Great Britain. He was often not in charge of Artoria's meals, and often left it to Guy or Bedivere. However, Artoria could easily tell that Wuming didn't make the dishes, which led to her scolding Wuming angrily. On the other hand, Merlin liked to watch from the side with a smile. During the 5 years that he lived with Mayu and Shiro, Wuming would also specially make her favorite omelet rice for Mayu. But later on, he would let Shiro Amiya cook for her. Although Mayu didn't want to scold Wuming like Artoria, the disappointed expression made Wuming feel guilty. As a result, the dishes that Wuming made in the past 5 years were comparable to the dishes that he made for himself since he was born. After everyone started eating, Ilya, Sella, and Shiro Amiya's eyes lit up. Even Lizette looked at Wuming strangely. "It's not bad, right?" Wuming asked with a smile. "It's delicious," Ilya yelled. Hey, big brother, why don't you stay at our house for a long time?" Ilya looked forward to it. "No, Ilya, how can you be so rude? You have to be a lady." Sella was still immersed in the sea of delicious food. After hearing Ilya's unladylike words, she instantly returned to her senses and lectured Ilya. "Ah, I know, Mother Sella." Ilya looked at Sella with a headache. Shiro Amiya and Lizette looked at this mother and daughter calmly, as if it was a daily life in the house of Einstein Barons. "By the way, Wuming, you're really Shiro's big brother. You're also very good at cooking," Sella said. "And Shiro, you too. You often cook by yourself and always compete with me for chores. I'm the nanny and guardian entrusted by Madam. How can you do this?" Hearing Sella start lecturing Shiro Amiya, Ilya secretly sighed in relief. Wuming looked at the warm scene of this family. Sella kept lecturing. Shiro Amiya listened awkwardly. Ilya was glad that she got rid of Sella's lecturing, and Lizette kept stuffing food in her mouth without saying a word. She ate happily. If only Mayu was here. Just like that, dinner for the day in Einstein Barons ended in a happy atmosphere. At night, everyone fell asleep. Wuming stood alone on the roof and looked at the bright moonlight shining on the earth. Mayu. Chapter 131. It had been some time since Wuming stayed at Ilya's house. On a certain weekend morning, Wuming brought the last portion of breakfast to the table. "I'm going to eat," everyone said in unison, and then they began their journey of food. "By the way, I found a place to stay in Winterwood City. I might move out tomorrow," Wuming suddenly said. There was silence at the table. Sella was the first to speak. "I almost forgot. Wuming is clearly staying at our house. I completely treat Wuming as a member of our family." Shiro Amiya and Lizette both looked at Wuming without saying anything. "Big brother, are you really leaving?" Ilya looked pitifully at Wuming. During the time he lived with Ilya and the others, Wuming had already conquered the 4 people of the House of Einstein Barons with his temperament, smile, personality, and other aspects. Especially Ilya. Because Wuming had a younger sister, Wuming was especially attractive to children, especially children of Ilya's age. He could win the hearts of children. To Ilya, Wuming is not only her older brother's big brother, but also her older brother. This person understands her thoughts, knows how to please her, is incomparably calm, treats everything with a sincere smile, cooks delicious food, and dotes on her even more than her adopted brother, Shiro Amiya. Ilya also forgot the fact that Wuming is only staying at their house. Wuming wanted to laugh at this matter that made everyone frown. "I'm just not staying at this house. I didn't say that I won't come back in the future." After Wuming said this, everyone realized that Wuming said that he had found a place to stay in Winterwood City and didn't say that he was leaving. When everyone heard that Wuming wasn't staying here, they ignored what Wuming had said. Seeing that everyone was obviously relieved, Wuming smiled and said, "I will come often, don't worry." "Hey, big brother, can we go to your house and take a look?" Ilya asked. Sella also said, "Yes, Wuming, you don't know anyone in Winterwood City. Even if you move into a new house, no one will celebrate. We can help you tidy up the house and celebrate." Seeing Shiro Amiya and Lizette nodding, Wuming looked at Sella and Ilya's expectant eyes and smiled. "All right then. Yeah, that's great." Ilya jumped up in excitement. "Ilya, be a lady, be a lady." "Ah, yes, I know. Mama Sela, Everyone was once again amused by this common scene. On the edge of Winterwood City, which was originally a wasteland, a huge Japanese-style mansion appeared here. Ilya, Sela, Lizette, and Shiro looked at this scene with a dumbfounded expression. So amazing. When did such a building appear on the edge of Winterwood City? This is too big, everyone exclaimed. To the stunned crowd, Wuming opened the door of the mansion and said, "So, are you still going to help me clean my room?" Sela heard Wuming's teasing tone and immediately said, "Of course, I'm the head maid of the house of Einstein Barons. Such a small house can't stump me." As he spoke, he strode in with large strides. "Mama Sela, don't tell me you really want to clean Big Brother's house," Ilya complained. With Aunt Sela's personality, she might really do that. Shiro Amiya wiped his cold sweat and smiled awkwardly. Lizette didn't say anything and walked in directly. Shiro Amiya and Ilya, who were worried about the two of them, also hurriedly walked in. Wuming wasn't in a hurry to go in. Wuming looked at this familiar house, and Wuming recalled the Amiya mansion in the other world. This Japanese-style mansion, which was somewhat similar to the Amiya mansion, was made by Wuming based on the Amiya mansion. Position creation. Yexei's a magician. He could create a terrain that was advantageous to him in a short time. As long as there were materials, he could even create a shrine that had been worshipped before. Wuming used his ability as a caste to build this mansion on the first night he stayed at Ilya's house. It was Wuming's magic workshop. Because he was afraid of trouble, Wuming had set up a spiritual interference type enchantment to create the illusion that a house was being built here for the passers-by. After estimating that it was about time, Wuming removed the barrier. However, in the eyes of ordinary people, this was a mansion that had been built for a long time. This place was originally the address of the Amiya mansion in the other world. At this moment, Wuming continued to use this address. "If Mayu comes to this world, then I'll build a home for her," Wuming said. The two words Shuayu were written on the doorplate next to the mansion's entrance. Wuming had reported his name as Shuayu Wuming. Although Ilya and the others felt that it was a little strange, they still accepted it. After all, following the surname Amiya was a little special. Then, Wuming walked into the Shuayu mansion. In the courtyard, Ilya and the others were shocked. As expected, "Big Brother, you're very rich," Ilya suddenly asked. "It's okay, but money is just a number to me." This was what Wuming, who had saved some gold bars in the other world, said. Moreover, Wuming didn't spend any money on this mansion. It was a magic workshop that was completely created out of thin air. Wuming had already solved the problems of the house deed and land deed with magic. Of course, the money that should be spent was still spent. I really couldn't tell. Is Wuming Cohen so rich? Then how did you end up staying at our house? Sela asked in confusion. Wuming smiled in response. If it weren't for this, I wouldn't have known you. Well, that's true. Let's help Wuming Cohen tidy up the house first. It must be very troublesome to tidy up such a big house. If we don't hurry, we won't be able to make it in time for dinner tonight, Sela said. Then, she began to tidy up the room with Ilya, Lizette, and Shiro Amiya. Wuming also helped from the side. In fact, Wuming brought the four to his house to test them. After all, whether it was Shiro Amiya or Ilya, the four of them all had excellent magic circuits. Now, it seemed that the four of them were really living as ordinary people. Soon, the five of them finished tidying up Wuming's mansion. Although the house is big, there is surprisingly nothing to tidy up, Shiro Amiya said. Well, after all, after this house was built, I only bought some furniture from the store. I don't have any luggage, so it looks like there are many rooms in the house. But in fact, there isn't much to tidy up, Wuming said. Then, let's go make dinner. Ilya raised her small hand and said excitedly, You want to eat Wuming's cooking, right? Lizette complained. Ilya, who was exposed, blushed. Everyone laughed. Chapter 132. In the Shuayu mansion, Wuming was the head chef, Shiro Amiya and Sela acted as assistants. A perfect and sumptuous meal appeared on the table. Ilya couldn't wait to pick up a piece of meat and then had a look of enjoyment on her face. Big Brother's cooking is as delicious as always. Wu Ming picked up vegetables and put them in Ilya's bowl. Then, he smiled and said, "Eat more if it's delicious. After all, you won't be able to eat my cooking every day in the future." After hearing Wu Ming's words, Ilya had a gloomy expression. Really, if only Big Brother was a member of our family. Shiro, Amiya, and Sela also nodded. As if thinking of something, a sly glint flashed in her vermilion eyes. Then, she pretended to casually say, "If only Wu Ming and Sela could get married." Sela was like a cat whose hair stood on end. What are you talking about, Lizette? How is it possible to get married?" Looking at the blushing Sela, the corner of Lizette's mouth curved up slightly. "But, Sela, aren't you already at the age of marriage? It just so happens that Shiro's big brother is about the same age as you. He's young, rich, gentle, and considerate. He can take care of the house and cook. His cooking is enough to support you. Don't miss this opportunity." After hearing Sela's words, Shiro, Amiya, and the blushing Ilya also reacted. Young, handsome, gentle, considerate, and elegant. He has such a big house and doesn't lack money. Most importantly, he can cook well. So, Big Brother, is this outstanding? That was the thought of the two at this moment. Even Sela, who was blushing and stuttering, had a hesitant expression. She looked at Wu Ming with uncertain eyes. This made Wu Ming feel a little awkward. Wu Ming knew himself well. Although his current personality wasn't bad, it was still somewhat different from Wu Ming's original personality. After all, the current Hyunryong caster's body had such a gentle and considerate character. Even the skills had a bit of favorability bonus. Wu Ming's original calm, bold, and decisive personality as a problem child could no longer be seen. The point was that Wu Ming knew that she was joking. After spending so many days together, apart from Shiro Amiya, whose personality hadn't changed much, Wu Ming understood Sela, Ilya, and Lidgerite very well. She usually looked weak and listless, but in reality, she was very good at finding entertainment for herself. Take Sela, for example. During the days that Wu Ming stayed at Ilya's house, he had seen Sela being teased by Lilith more than once. Therefore, Wu Ming coughed for the embarrassment caused by this little demon-like girl. "Ahem, I will also go to your house on weekdays. Please rest assured." Although he said that, he still finished the meal awkwardly. Before leaving, Wu Ming stood outside his house, and Ilya and the others stood in front of Wu Ming. "Then we'll go first," Sela said, although Sela still blushed when she looked at Wu Ming at the moment. "Well, please be careful on the road. Shiro, as a man, you must protect others." Shiro Amiya smiled and then said to Wu Ming, "Winterwood City is usually very safe." In this regard, Wu Ming looked at Shiro Amiya with a "brother, I am very disappointed" look. Shiro Amiya smiled awkwardly. "Big Brother, you have to come often." Ilya looked at Wu Ming expectantly. Wu Ming squatted down, touched Ilya's head, and said, "I will." Watching the four figures disappear into the distance, Wu Ming didn't prepare to return to the house until the four figures disappeared around the corner. At this moment, a magical fluctuation came. Wu Ming didn't stay idle these days. He went out in the name of work and set up some detection-type enchantments in Winterwood City, which were specially set up to detect magical fluctuations. Among the tactics that Wu Ming had set up, the only thing that could cause a fluctuation was a class card. Did it appear? Class cards. Wu Ming jumped onto the roof and went to the place where the class cards were. On the other half of the Winterwood Bridge, Wu Ming walked over. Wu Ming walked to a place and looked for the center of the mirror world. "Is it here, Kalis?" Wu Ming stood on a flat ground and said to Kalis, "Yes, Master. You can now teleport to the mirror world through a special spell." The golden-green dragon horn headdress appeared. "Well, let's get started." Then, a special magic circle appeared under Wu Ming's feet. The magic array spun and changed continuously. Suddenly, a flash of light appeared, and silent wonder disappeared from where he stood. At this moment, Wu Ming had entered the mirror world. Almost after a few minutes, a spell reappeared in the same place. Wu Ming appeared in the same place with a light. There was no change, no embarrassment, but he was holding a card in his hand. The mysterious old man was wearing a hooded robe with a white beard to his waist, holding a staff and a magic book. This was the same caster class card as Wuming. Wuming looked at the caster class card and said, "Sure enough, this is indeed the class card I encountered in another world." After Wuming entered the mirror world, he met a purple-haired woman wearing a magic robe and holding a magic wand. At a glance, Wuming could tell that the other party's uniform was the same as the heroic spirit state that Atlam had used that day. In order to find out the other party's real name, Wuming deliberately entangled with the other party for a while. Wuming was not afraid of the other party's trump card. Wuming had already taken out his mythical Yggdrasil as the same level of existence as Gibalg, although Wuming's mythical Yggdrasil didn't have the effect of the heart attack. As an Arma-level noble phantasm, Caster, who didn't even have a magic workshop, was nothing to be afraid of. Yes, after the appearance of the Caster class card, Wuming came here for the first time. Caster in the mirror world didn't even have time to prepare a magic workshop. Wuming directly found him. After releasing a lot of kamikaze magic, Caster was forced by Wuming to take out his noble phantasm. After Wuming revealed his real name, Wuming easily defeated Caster. So that's how it is. No wonder you can use so many kamikaze magic. You deserve to be the legendary traitor Demetrius. Yes, the real name of Wuming's card was Demetrius, the one who was once feared and pitiful. Chapter 133. Demetrius, the traitor which existed in Greek mythology. The princess of Colchis, because of the curse of the goddess of beauty Aphrodite, fell in love with the leader of the hero ship Argo, Aeson's curse. In order to find the golden fleece, she betrayed her motherland and killed her brother, who came to find her, and cut him into 8 pieces. In the end, because of Aeson's betrayal, she killed Aeson's new love and her 2 biological sons. As the betrayal witch, Demetrius had her life's materialization noble artifact, Rule Breaker Talisman, Rule Breaker. The effect of the Rule Breaker rune was to return all magic spells that lasted for a certain period of time to their original state before the spell was cast. In short, it was to break all magic and return all magic to its original state. It was also because Wuming released a lot of magic that Demetrius took out Rule Breaker Talisman, which allowed Wuming to recognize the other party's real name. It's just that the appearance of the class card is a bit abnormal. That's right. Wuming had asked Bazette about the time when the 2 class cards would appear. The difference between the 2 was almost 2 months, but the time when Wuming appeared was a month. Now the time when the caster class card appeared was more than half a month. Wuming felt that the remaining 4 class cards were likely to appear together. Well, let's talk about it later. After that, Wuming directly opened the portal and walked in. The night continued quietly like this. The next day, Wuming got up early and began the meditation at the beginning of the day. Almost an hour later, Wuming's door was knocked. Wuming opened his eyes and projected the view in front of the door in front of him. "Ilya," Wuming said in confusion. Yes, it was Ilya standing in front of his door. Wuming got up and quickly walked to the door. After opening the door, Ilya said happily, "Big brother." "Ilya, are you the only one who came here?" Wuming looked at Ilya first, then looked around and found that there was no one else. "Well, I'm the only one here," Ilya replied. In this regard, Wuming frowned, and then said, "That won't do, Ilya. Although my home is very close to yours, because my home is on the edge of Winterwood City, try not to come alone in the future. At least find someone to accompany you." "I'm sorry, I won't do it again," Ilya said with a blush. "Well, Ilya, why are you free to come to me today?" Wuming responded to Ilya and asked. Ilya was somewhat unhappy. She puffed up her cheeks and looked at Wuming somewhat angrily. "Really, Big Brother said that he would take me to the amusement park at the end of this week. Big Brother wants to go back on his word?" Only then did Wuming recall that he had indeed said this sentence. It was an afternoon almost a week ago. Wuming drank afternoon tea and leisurely watched TV. Ilya came back from school, looking a little listless. Wuming immediately saw that Ilya was in a bad mood. As a member of the family, Wuming asked, What's wrong, Ilya? Ilya said unhappily. I fell asleep in class today and was lectured by the teacher. Wuming recalled that last night, he and Ilya were playing with a high-level jigsaw puzzle that he had just bought. There were a total of 20,000 jigsaw puzzles. With Wuming's wisdom and Ilya's hard work, the two finally finished the jigsaw puzzle around 12 o'clock. Because Wuming wanted to deliberately hide his inhuman characteristics, he did not put much effort into the jigsaw puzzle. These jigsaw puzzles were basically put together by Wuming, who kept reminding Ilya. This led to Ilya's lack of energy and also led to Ilya being reprimanded by the teacher. So when she returned home, she looked unhappy. Sorry, it's all my fault. How about this? I'll invite Ilya to play at the amusement park next weekend. How about it? Wuming quickly said with an apologetic smile. Really? Long live Big Brother. Ilya happily hugged Wuming and shouted. This loud voice attracted the attention of Sela, who had the goal of cultivating Ilya into a virtuous lady. Ilya, don't be so loud at home. Be a virtuous lady, understand? Sela ran out of the kitchen and began lecturing Ilya without changing her clothes. Although it was called lecturing, in fact, she was gently advising. This was different from Shiro Amiya. When dealing with Shiro Amiya, Sela was as strict as possible, making Shiro Amiya extremely embarrassed. After regaining his senses, Wuming said, Sorry, Ilya, I forgot about it because of work. Really? How could you forget? I've been looking forward to going to the amusement park alone with Big Brother for a long time. Ilya's face was a little red as she spoke. How about this? Ilya, you sit in my house for a while. How about it? Okay. Ilya was obediently led by Wuming to the edge of the courtyard. Ilya sat on the edge, while Wuming went into the house to prepare. Soon, Wuming stood behind Ilya fully armed. Wuming said, Let's go, Ilya. Ilya turned her head and nodded heavily. Okay, let's hurry up and set off. Soon, Wuming brought Ilya to Winterwood City's amusement park and found that it was not bad. After buying the tickets to the amusement park, Wuming held Ilya's little hand and walked into the amusement park. What do you want to do first, Ilya? Wuming asked Ilya. Ilya pointed at the merry-go-round not far away and said happily, Let's play this first. Then, Ilya pulled Wuming's hand to the side of the merry-go-round and began a day of fun. Wuming and Ilya had played almost all the facilities in the amusement park. They had basically played pirate ships, haunted houses, bumper cars, merry-go-round, Ferris wheels, and so on. Ilya had lunch in the amusement park's restaurant and looked a little dissatisfied. As expected, after getting used to Big Brother's cooking, I can't taste these dishes that were originally delicious, Ilya said as she ate. These dishes are already very delicious. It's not bad to change the taste occasionally, Wuming said from the side. That's right, Big Brother, tell me about your past. Ilya's little face revealed an expectant expression. Past? Let me think about it. Only then did Wuming recall that he could be said to have many adventures now. It was enough to publish a book. In the beginning, there was a young man called Wuming. Chapter 134. Wuming adapted what he had experienced and told Ilya the adventure story of an ordinary person. When he finished, it was almost evening. It's already so late. Let's go back, Ilya. Wuming patted Ilya's head. Okay. Ilya and Wuming held hands and walked out of the amusement park together. On the way, Ilya revealed a happy expression. Big Brother, your experience is really good, amazing. Big Brother, are you an adventurer? Ilya asked. Kind of. I like to travel around. In an instant, Ilya revealed an envious and yearning expression. That's great. Mama Sela doesn't let me do anything exciting. I really envy Big Brother. After hearing Ilya's words, Wuming patted Ilya's head and smiled. This is because Sela has to think about your safety. Adventure is not a simple thing. It's full of danger everywhere. That's why I said that you should just be a good primary school student. Ilya, whose head was patted by Wuming, turned her little head unhappily. I know. Seeing Ilya like this, Wuming smiled. If there's a chance next time, I'll take you on an adventure, Ilya. Ilya's expression changed from depressed to expectant. Really? That's great. Ilya hugged Wuming happily. Then, while the two chatted, Wuming and Ilya arrived in front of the house of Einstein Barons. At the corner not far in front of the house, a tomboy was looking here. Bizet. Wuming narrowed his eyes. Originally, Wuming wanted to cook dinner at Ilya's house, according to her wishes, but Bizet's arrival seemed to indicate that something had happened. Sorry, Ilya. I just remembered that I have something important to do. I can't go to your house. You can go back first. They had clearly arrived at Ilya's doorstep, but Wuming said that he had something to do. However, Ilya wasn't an unreasonable person. In her opinion, since Big Brother said that there was something, then there must be something. And all right then. Goodbye, Big Brother. You must come again next time. After waving goodbye to Ilya, Wuming walked to Bizet's seat. Did something happen? Wuming asked. Bizet simply nodded and said, The card you gave me has been discovered. Wuming was stunned for a moment. Then he said, It's Zelik, right? Bizet nodded again. Yes. Wuming shook his head in surprise. That old man is quite impressive. Just how many parallel worlds has he connected to? Wuming smiled and mumbled to himself. Bizet didn't say anything. First, it was because Bizet couldn't understand what Wuming said. Second, even if Bizet could understand, it had nothing to do with her. She was only here to pass on the message. That sir has asked you to go, Bizet said. Understood. I'll go now. After saying that, Wuming opened the teleportation gate and walked in under Bizet's shocked gaze. Suddenly, Wuming's head stretched out from the pitch-black and red teleportation gate. Do you want to come together? Bizet was silent, but he still looked at Wuming with a look of resistance. Wuming faintly smiled and grabbed Bizet. Wah! Bizet let out a panic scream. Far away on the other side of the continent, in the upper floor of the clock tower in England, outside Zelika's door, a pitch-black and red teleportation gate appeared. Wuming pulled Bizet's arm and walked out of the teleportation gate. You're really clumsy, Wuming commented. Bizet's face was a little red as he stared fiercely at Wuming. In response to Bizet's stare, Wuming shrugged and then walked into Zelika's room. Bang! Following the sound of the door closing, only Bizet was left in the hallway. After tidying up his clothes, Bizet left as well. In the room, Wuming walked to the sofa and sat down. Finally, he poured himself a cup of tea. You're really self-conscious, Hyunryong. The old man sitting on the chair in the dim room laughed. It's your face every time. Even if you don't find it annoying, I do. Wuming looked at Zelik with disdain. Ha ha ha. I was a popular man when I was young. Zelik laughed. Wuming understood the old man's character. He couldn't help it. He met him once in every world. He could not understand him. You know what's going on with the class card, right? Zelik said. Well, after all, this is also something that I contributed to. Wuming took a sip of tea and said, Why? Gem Wuming wants to study it. Just in time, I have a caster class card here. Wuming said as he took out a card. Zelik smiled and said, I'm not interested in this, but some people in the clock tower are interested in the class card, so they sent Mark Remus to collect the class card. What do you mean? Wuming asked. I don't have anything that you want. How about this? I'll give you this, and you stop collecting the class card. Later, Zelik took out a suitcase, which seemed to contain very valuable items because the suitcase was surrounded by various charms. Zelik opened the suitcase and revealed the items inside. This is... Wuming was surprised. Inside the suitcase was a clay plate, and the clay plate was full of ancient aura. This is the clay plate excavated from the Two Rivers Basin. Not to mention that the clay plate has the quality of a holy relic. It also contains the magic of the gods. It is a rare original magic book. This made Wuming think carefully. You know, the original magic book is also a very powerful tool for Wuming, and it can also be used as a holy relic. Wuming speculated that if he summoned it with his own affinity, it must be the hero king. Deal. After a while, Wuming left Zelika's office. Wuming returned to the Shuoyu house through the portal. Before that, Wuming wanted to give the caster class card to Zelik, but Zelik said, I'll leave it with you first. Since people have said so, Wuming will not be unreasonable. According to Zelik, in about a week, Zelik will send people from the clock tower to Winterwood City again. The world of the class cards mentioned by Zelik has been estimated almost a week later, so the rest of the class cards will appear. Zelik asked Wuming to help the magician who was sent to recover the cards. First, Zelik didn't want the cards to fall into the hands of the clock tower's higher-ups who were not too good. Second, Zelik hoped to train the magician who was sent. Only the magician who came to support the recovery of the cards. Well, it has nothing to do with me anyway. Wuming threw the card casually, and the card fell into the golden ripples. Wuming turned and returned to the house. Chapter 135. A week later, Wuming sat in the yard and meditated every day. After a while, Wuming exhaled softly and then opened his eyes. All the rank cards have appeared. Wuming thought, because the place where the rank cards appeared was the location of Winterwood City's small spiritual veins. Wuming's detection technique near the spiritual veins in Winterwood City had almost been destroyed by the rank cards. This proved that the remaining 4 rank cards had all appeared. Moreover, because Zelik was going, Wuming put the caster rank card back in the position next to the Winterwood Bridge so that the caster rank card reappeared. This was also a cover-up. After all, only Wuming and Zelik knew that the caster rank card had been recycled. Even Bizet, who had recycled 2 rank cards, did not know that the caster rank card had appeared and was recycled by Wuming. Since Wuming's purpose at the moment was to find Meiyu, it could be said that Wuming had single-handedly contributed to the emergence of the rank cards. I hope that Meiyu will appear after the rank cards appear. Wuming sighed. In the 5 years of living with Meiyu, it seemed that Meiyu could do anything and seemed to be a genius child. But Wuming knew that this was just the result of Meiyu's own efforts. Because of Meiyu's request, Wuming even bought college-type books home, and Meiyu read them all. Meiyu was very smart, really smart, but because of her childhood experience, Meiyu's emotional loss. Meiyu was really not good at dealing with people, the ways of the world, and so on. This was why Wuming was worried about Meiyu. Wuming got up and was ready to meet the magician who was responsible for the recycling of the rank cards recommended by Zelik. Because there were no disasters, Winterwood City developed very quickly. As for why there were no buildings in the open space in front of the Shuayu residence, it was purely because there was a mountain here and there were no economic benefits to be taken advantage of. The developer was secretly very grateful to Wuming for buying this land. On the other side of Winterwood City was the Winterwood City Airport. Wuming used the Loon Rune to make himself invisible. He stood on a tall building and looked at the airport exit. Soon, a girl in red and a girl in blue entered Wuming's sight. Her red hair was loose, and there were 2 ponytails in her loose hair. Her eyes were green, and she wore a red top and a black short skirt. Black knee socks wrapped around her healthy and beautiful thighs, revealing her fair and absolute territory. Blue had a head of golden curly hair that was adorned with pale blue ribbons. She wore a blue gown that made people's eyes light up. Her fair skin was set off by the blue gown, and her eyes were like amber gems. She was constantly emitting an elegant aura. The reason why Wuming believed that this person was the magician who came to recycle the rank cards was because of the lapis lazuli Kalas barrel. Kalas was the most advanced magic dress made by Zelik. With the existence of artificial spirits, Kalas, who sacrificed her attack and focused on assisting, easily felt the existence of her own kind. Master, those 2 humans have my kind on them. Oh, Kalas, are you saying that they have the magic dress made by Zelik? Wuming said against the wind. Yes, master. Then Wuming looked at the 2 girls more attentively. To be able to make Zelik take out the most advanced magic dress, Zelik really values these 2 girls. However, Wuming smiled and continued. It's just that these 2 don't have a good relationship. Kalas, there's a good show to watch. I don't think there will be a good show. You're still as bad as ever, master. Kalas complained. Well, what's wrong with that? It's a good opportunity to understand their methods. With that, Wuming disappeared through a portal. On the other side, Rin in Osaka and Luvia walked side by side on the road, pulling their suitcases. The 2 of them glared at each other. What a remote place, Rin in Osaka. Luvia, who was wearing a blue dress, mocked him elegantly. If you don't like it, you can leave, Livia Serena Eiderfeld. Rin Inosaka said fiercely. Oh, I forgot. Barbarians don't fit in here. This time, it was Rin Inosaka's turn to mock. Of course I won't fit in your monkey country. Livia glared. At this moment, a frivolous female voice came from Rin Inosaka's suitcase. Aya, why are you two fighting again? You were at the airport just now, and now you're fighting again. Shut up, Ruby, Rin Inosaka roared. It's all this barbarian's fault. What? You're just a monkey. It's clearly your fault. Livia also roared. The noble aura that the two of them had instantly disappeared, as if they had been beaten back to their original selves. Seriously, you two are going to work together to recover the rank cards. You have to get along well. The voice called Ruby came from Rin Inosaka's suitcase again. My sister is right, Livia Sama. Please maintain a good relationship with Rin Sama. A female voice also came from Livia's suitcase. However, this voice was more cold and steady. Huh, maintain a good relationship? What are you talking about, Sapphire? I don't want it. Exactly. Who wants to maintain a good relationship with a barbarian? Their words became more and more heated. Then, Rin Inosaka said, if that's the case, then we'll have to fight. Livia nodded. Looks like this is the only way to tame this monkey. Then, the two of them waved their hands and shouted, transform. Then, what happened next shocked even Wuming, who was secretly following behind them. Two magic wands flew out from their suitcases and landed in Rin Inosaka's and Livia's hands. Then, Rin Inosaka and Livia's bodies began to glow. When the glow dissipated, their clothes became animal-like magical girl costumes. Then the two of them flew into the sky and began their battle of magical girl costumes. Wu Ming, on the other hand, revealed himself and looked at the two people flying into the sky in a daze. What's this? Magical girl? Then, as if he remembered something, Wu Ming quickly asked, Collis, don't tell me you could transform a user too? Collis was silent. Wu Ming covered his face and said shamefully, I knew it. Zelik, that old fox, wouldn't let me take advantage of him. Then Wu Ming used the invisibility rune again, entered the invisible state, and flew up into the sky. Chapter 136. Rin Inosaka and Livia continued to attack. Magic bullets danced in the air, occasionally engaging in close-range combat. Although it was beautiful, these attacks weren't that simple. Zelrich's magic attire could make an ordinary person comparable to a first-rate magician. Just from this alone, it was enough to see the power of rubies and sapphires. Wu Ming was a little bored, and after a while, Livia found an opportunity to hit Rin Inosaka. Although Rin Inosaka wasn't injured because of the ruby's protection, his face was still covered in dust. The ruby on his hand said so. I've been using protection all the time, but at this distance, I can't block all the attacks. Livia laughed and mocked. Oh, you better disappear quickly, Rin Inosaka. Rin Inosaka said with a suppressed voice. Is that so? I can understand your feelings in that case. Then, Rin Inosaka took out a card with an archer's face on it. Let's use this to decide the winner. Livia's eyes narrowed as well. She then took out her class card as well. There was a ranger holding a gun on it. Come on then. The two of them raised their staffs at the same time and stuck their class cards onto their staffs as they yelled out. Class card. Archer, archer. Include. Class card. Lancer, lancer. Include. Just when Wu Ming thought something would happen, nothing happened, except for the awkwardness. Hey, Ruby, what's going on? Rin Inbin grabbed the ruby in confusion and poked it with his rank card. Livia was also puzzled and asked Sapphire, what's going on? Sapphire. Aya, that's about enough, you too. The wings on the ruby's staff were like an anthropomorphic figure, making a helpless gesture. The reason why Master gave you the starry staff is because he wants you to work together to recover the class card. Livia, who didn't get along with Rin Inosaka, wouldn't let go of this opportunity to mock Rin Inosaka. Oh, serves him right, Rin Tozaka. He was taught a lesson by his own magic staff. Livia cackled in the style of a queen. It seems that I'm the only one qualified to hold the starry wand. Livia had a smug look on her face. No, Lady Livia is the same. Sapphire suddenly said. While what? Livia asked in surprise. In view of Lord Livia's attitude towards the mission as if no one else was present, I already believe that Lord Livia has lost the qualifications to become the master. What are you talking about? Sapphire. Livia stared at Sapphire in disbelief. Naturally, Rin in Osaka, who didn't like Livia, wouldn't let this opportunity slip by. Who was the one who said he was qualified? How interesting. Rin in Osaka mocked. Shut up. Livia's face was filled with indignation. At this moment, the ruby in Rin Inbin's hand said, Anyway, that's it. Then Ruby and Sapphire pulled the two of them away from their hands. Please forgive us for acting on our own initiative. Please allow us to leave for a while. Ruby and Sapphire said together, Damn it, get back here. A mere wand dares to defy its master. Rin in Osaka said in exasperation. Haha, I'm so sorry. Miss Rin is no longer my master. Ruby made a frivolous sound. You bastard, I'll never let you go, Sapphire. Livia said in exasperation. I'm so sorry, original master. Oh, right. Ruby reminded them. You've already exited your transformation state. If you don't think of a way, you'll fall. Ruby said cheerfully. At this moment, Rin in Osaka and Livia realized that their clothes had returned to their original state. Wawa dash, Rin in Osaka and Livia cried out in pain as they fell. A scream resounded through the sky. Ruby flapped her wings and said, Take care. Then Ruby and Sapphire left. Wooming appeared and shook his head with a smile. What a pair of clowns, whether it's the wands or the magician. What do you think, Collis? Wooming asked Collis. Although it's necessary to determine if the user has the qualifications to be a master, it's too dangerous for the user to deactivate their transformation in the air. Collis's cold voice sounded. If Collis thinks that I don't have the qualifications, will she also leave me? Wooming asked. No, master. You're Collis's master for life. This won't change. Collis replied in an anxious voice. I know. I just wanted to see Collis's anxious face. After all, you've shown too little of your feelings. Wooming smiled. In the past 5 years, Wooming had already improved Collis's favorability. Wooming didn't treat Collis as a tool, but as a life. That's why Collis was so loyal to Wooming. In fact, even if Collis wanted to leave Wooming, it was impossible. The magic costume Collis had been completely transformed into Wooming's noble phantasm. Therefore, the master-servant relationship might be forever. You're still as bad as ever, master. Collis's cold voice returned. Sorry. Wooming smiled. At that time, the residual detection technique Wooming set up in Winterwood City worked. Wooming was a little excited and flew to that place at a very fast speed. A little girl was walking on the road. Because her clothes were thin, the little girl found a piece of clothes in the garbage on the side of the road. The little girl didn't dislike it and put on directly. Looking at the strange and familiar place, the little girl was a little lost. Brother Wooming, Brother Shiro, the little girl couldn't help but think of her two brothers. Although Mayu was sad, she was still strong enough not to cry. After Shiro Amiya made a wish, Mayu had already come to this world when she opened her eyes. Mayu thought about Shiro Amiya's last move. As if he noticed something, Shiro Amiya was a little shocked, and then he reacted. Mayu, my brother asked me to tell you that I'm sorry. We'll be separated for a while. Then, Shiro Amiya directly used the spell on the scroll given by Wooming and made a wish. In Mayu's eyes, Shiro Amiya directly made a wish, then resolutely turned around and left. Mayu, who hadn't figured out what happened, came to this strange world. Mayu! Then an excited voice came. Chapter 137. Mayu! Following an emotional voice, Mayu raised her head. A warm embrace embraced Mayu. Woo! Brother Wooming, Mayu said in disbelief as she raised her head. Mayu, who had always been strong and not shed tears, actually shed tears at this moment. After all, a second ago, they were told to be apart for a while. After preparing herself, they met again in the next second. This was hard for a 10-year-old child to accept. "I'm sorry, Mayu. I've made you suffer," Wu Ming said with some heartache. Then, he wiped away Mayu's tears with his hand. "It's okay. Brother Wu Ming still found me in the end." Mayu shook her head. Wu Ming hugged Mayu tightly with self-reproach. Looking at Mayu's old and smelly coat, Wu Ming could imagine. A little girl, who had no relatives or friends in this world, appeared on the streets in thin clothes. In order to not let her body feel cold, the little girl dug out old clothes from the trash and put them on. After all, Mayu was a weak little girl. Wu Ming didn't teach Mayu magic. Firstly, it was to let Mayu have a stable life. Secondly, Mayu didn't like magic. Fortunately, there were no human traffickers in Winterwood City. If Mayu was kidnapped by human traffickers and something happened to her, Wu Ming might destroy this world. There was no doubt that Wu Ming could do such a thing. As the origin dragon from the Great Origin, Wu Ming had the confidence and the determination to destroy everything for Mayu. After all, she was a sister. She was meant to be loved. How could he let his sister suffer? Wu Ming gently took off Mayu's old clothes and put his clothes on Mayu. Then, Wu Ming picked up Mayu and said, "Let's go, Mayu. Let's go home." Mayu's eyes widened. "Home? Yes, a home that only belongs to us." Wu Ming smiled and nodded. Wu Ming immediately opened a portal and brought Mayu to the Shuayu residence. Where the two of them were originally standing, a magic wand appeared. The wand lingered on the spot where Wu Ming was standing. Then, as if it had found something, the magic wand immediately turned and headed in a certain direction. Wu Ming took a bath with Mayu and gave her a new set of clothes. Then, under Wu Ming's care, Mayu fell asleep peacefully. Wu Ming walked out of the room. "Looks like Mayu is really tired. She fell asleep as soon as I started telling her the story." Wu Ming had just started telling Mayu the story when he noticed that Mayu's breathing had stabilized. After testing, Miss Mayu's mental state has gone through ups and downs. It's not strange for her to have this kind of situation. Collis explained, "I know, but I'm still worried about Mayu." Wu Ming sighed and said. Wu Ming was still blaming himself. "If only I didn't go and watch the fight between Rin Tasaka and Livia. If only I had discovered Mayu earlier. If only I didn't find it troublesome to set up an all-around detection tactic in Fuyuki City." Wu Ming kept blaming himself. After all, when he first saw Mayu, Mayu's expression was something that Wu Ming would never forget. Shaking his head, Wu Ming decided not to think about it. After all, Mayu was back. Wu Ming wouldn't let Mayu suffer anymore. "All right, since it's still early, let's buy some daily necessities and ingredients for Mayu." As he spoke, Wu Ming walked out of the Shuayu mansion. At this moment, a blue magic staff arrived outside the Shuayu mansion. "This is a magic workshop? Who built such a large and powerful magic workshop?" Blue Baisher said. "We have to go in first." Then, Sapphire began to analyze the barriers outside the Shuayu mansion. Because of Mei Yu's arrival, the Shuayu residence was opened by Wu Ming with 7 major barriers and 21 minor barriers. A total of 28 barriers formed a grand barrier. Even if Blue Baisher had the highest level of magic attire, without an owner, he wouldn't be able to decipher the barrier. Moreover, even if he had an owner, he might not be able to decipher the barrier. However, if Sapphire was given time, she might be able to decipher it. However, there wasn't enough time. Wu Ming hid his presence and hovered in the air, watching Sapphire's every move. As soon as Sapphire arrived near the Shuayu mansion, Wu Ming had already noticed. Because Wu Ming knew that the starry staff meant no harm, Wu Ming didn't stop it. Wu Ming's magic workshop wasn't like other magicians. If it wasn't invaded, it wouldn't be discovered. The magic workshop had already set up a detection tactic in the 1,000 meters surrounding the Shuayu mansion. Under Wu Ming's instructions, Sapphire quickly opened an entrance to the Shuayu mansion. Otherwise, with Sapphire's current condition, it might take a long time to decipher the barrier. Then, Sapphire flew in. "Are you looking for Mayu to be your new owner?" Wu Ming said. Wu Ming thought about it and decided to let Mayu make the decision. Wuming now understood that he couldn't always be by Meiyu's side. Meiyu had to strengthen herself. Even in this peaceful world, Meiyu had to at least be able to protect herself. Wuming no longer paid attention to the Shuayu mansion situation and left. After a while, Wuming returned with some purchased items. Wuming walked into the house and put down various ingredients and daily necessities. Wuming turned his head and looked at Meiyu, who was hiding outside the door. "Don't hide. I found you long ago." Wuming had surveillance of every corner of the Shuayu mansion. Even a fly could be found accurately. Of course, that was if the fly could enter. "Brother Wuming." Meiyu walked in a little embarrassed. At this moment, Meiyu's clothes had changed drastically. Meiyu held a sapphire wand in her hand. She was wearing a light blue-purple outfit, like a primary school student swimsuit. She wore knee-high boots on her legs and a black feathery skirt on her waist. A small white cape extended from her back. She looked like a little elf. "Not bad, Meiyu. It suits you very well," Wuming said with a smile. "No, Brother Wuming, don't make fun of me," Meiyu said with a red face. "Why would I?" Wuming walked in front of Meiyu and squatted down. Why would a brother make fun of his sister? And Wuming looked firmly into Meiyu's eyes and said, "Have you decided?" Meiyu's face was no longer red. She met Wuming's eyes. Then, Meiyu's little head firmly nodded. "Yes, I've decided, Brother Wuming." Wuming smiled. "That's good. Meiyu, you have to remember that no matter what you choose, I will always be your strong backing." "Thank you, Brother Wuming." Meiyu hugged Wuming and said gently. Wuming hugged Meiyu with both hands and quietly enjoyed this moment of peace. Chapter 138. The next day, Wuming suggested that they go to the place where the cards were stored to retrieve them, but Sapphire objected. "I think Lady Meiyu should look for Lady Livia. Lady Livia is the Great Master's personal staff to retrieve the cards, so she's very familiar with them." However, Wuming said, "I don't think that little girl can teach Meiyu anything." In the end, Meiyu decided to look for Livia, whom she had never met before. After all, according to Sapphire, Livia might still be looking for Sapphire at this moment. All right, then Meiyu should go." Wuming looked as though he wanted to come back early. Brother Wuming isn't coming with me?" Meiyu was puzzled. "Meiyu." Wuming looked at Meiyu seriously. It was rare for him to be so serious. Yes. Meiyu looked at Wuming nervously. "You should know that you're a magical girl now. You need to learn to be independent, so I won't help you this time. This is your own choice." Wuming said seriously. "Yes, I understand, Brother Wuming." Meiyu replied seriously. Then, Meiyu left the house as though she was stepping onto a battlefield. As soon as Meiyu left, Wuming heaved a sigh of relief. "It's better if I don't show myself." Then, because he was still worried about Meiyu, Wuming used an invisibility spell and quietly followed behind Meiyu. Because she didn't find Sapphire, Livia rested for a night and started looking for Sapphire again. "Damn it! Sapphire's family, where did they go?" Livia said angrily. Are you Livia?" Suddenly, a little girl's voice sounded in Livia's ears. Livia turned her head and saw a black-haired girl of about 10 years old standing not far away. "That's right, I'm Livia. Who are you, little sister? How do you know me?" Livia asked in an amiable manner. Wu Ming, who was following behind, saw this scene and the corner of his mouth twitched. As long as Rin and Osaka wasn't around, Livia was always very elegant. "Lady Livia." Sapphire appeared behind Meiyu and bowed to Livia. "So you're here. Sapphire, hurry up and come back with me," Livia said angrily, as if she had just seen a worried child. "I'm very sorry, Madam Livia. My current master is Meiyu," Sapphire said politely and pointed at Meiyu like a human. As if she had accepted her fate, Livia rubbed her forehead in distress and said, "Really, Sapphire? How could you drag a normal person into this?" "Because Lady Livia and Lady Ling both ignored the mission. This is something that can't be helped," Sapphire said calmly. "Regarding the matter of retrieving the rank cards, I'm willing to do it." At this moment, Meiyu's voice was heard. "Rather than leaving it like this, it's better to give these rank cards to you," Meiyu said with some pain. "Oh, looks like you're not a normal person." Livia squinted her eyes. I'll help you retrieve the rank cards, and you're not allowed to ask about me. How about it? Livia looked at Mayo's clear eyes, thought for a moment, then nodded. That's the only way. Who told Sapphire to take you as her master? Wuming nodded with satisfaction. Then, Wuming left. Mayu and Livia walked to a coffee shop and sat down. After all, even if they couldn't ask about Mayo's past, they should at least understand each other. However, Wuming wasn't interested in listening to their conversation. Moreover, it didn't matter even if the other party found out something. According to his usual habits, Wuming would go to Ilya's house to cook dinner. However, because of Mayu, Wuming sent a message to Ilya and the others saying that he wouldn't be going today. After Wuming returned home, he was busy in the kitchen. For Mayu, Wuming even made several servings of omelet rice. After a moment, the doorbell rang. Wuming sensed it and was a bit puzzled. Ilya? That's right. The people at the door were Ilya, Shiro, Sella, Lizette, and the others. Wuming went to open the door. Big brother, Ilya smiled sweetly. Why are you here? Wuming asked, puzzled. Shiro, Amiya, and Sella were a bit embarrassed, while Lizette still looked indifferent. Hey, big brother, didn't you say that your little sister is back? We wanted to celebrate. Ilya scratched her head in embarrassment. I think it's you guys who want to eat my cooking. Wuming teased. Everyone was embarrassed. Come in, I'm cooking. Wuming hurriedly stepped aside. Yes, everyone answered and walked into the Shuayu residence. In the kitchen, Wuming was busy. Because of today's special meaning, Wuming chose not to let anyone help him. Instead, he chose to do it himself. Ilya and the others were sitting in the living room and chatting. After a moment, Mayu returned to the Shuayu residence. I'm back, Mayu habitually shouted. You're back, Mayu. Wuming walked out of the kitchen. Ilya and the others stood up and looked at Mayu. Mayu, let me introduce you. This is Ilya. Wuming pointed at Ilya. For some reason, Mayu and Ilya looked at each other seriously. There was a special feeling between them. Then, Wuming started to introduce the others. Shiro, Amiya, Sella, and Lizette. When Shiro Amiya was introduced, Mayo's eyes flickered slightly. However, it quickly disappeared. Hello, I'm Shitsuki Mayu. It's our first time meeting. Please take care of me. Mayu bowed politely. So elegant. To the casual Ilya, this was undoubtedly someone else's child. All right, you guys go ahead and chat. Sherlang, come with me to serve the dishes. The dishes are almost ready. Yes, big brother. Soon, a large table of dishes was placed on the table. Looking at the sumptuous table, Ilya gasped in amazement. Wow, what a sumptuous meal. Big brother loves Mayu very much. Ilya looked at Mayu with a hint of envy. Mayu did not say anything. Instead, she looked at the omelet rice before her that was arranged in a heart shape. Brother Wuming, I'm very happy now. Mayu mumbled softly and smiled. Wuming and the others did not hear Mayu's words. Then, Wuming said, I didn't intend to cook so much. If you guys hadn't come, I would have only made enough for Mayu and me. Everyone started to eat heartily. By the way, Brother Wuming's house is so big. Aren't there any other servants? Sella was concerned about this. Perhaps it was because she was a nanny. Wuming put down his chopsticks and said, No. How should I put it? The Shuayu residence is built with special wood that can effectively reduce dust. Hence, there's no need to specially clean it. Is there such wood? Sella muttered to herself in confusion. Wuming hurriedly used suggestion magic to influence the others. However, after Ilya was affected, her body seemed to have a protective shield. Only a slight fluctuation appeared in her eyes. Soon, they finished their dinner. After sending Ilya and the others away, Wuming taught Mayu some basic knowledge of magic. Well, most of it was taught by Kalis. After all, Wuming did not understand such basic things. When it was almost midnight, Mayu said goodbye to Wuming and left the Shuayu residence. Be careful on the road. Wuming waved and watched Mayu leave. Wuming, who was still worried, used invisibility again and followed behind Mayu. Chapter 139. Mayu came to Suechuan Academy High School. After Mayu and Livia met up, there's also a pair on the field of the high school. Wuming stood on a building in the Suechuan Academy High School and looked at Ilya and Rin Inbin in the middle of the field. I see. Ilya has also become the new owner of the Starry Magic staff. It suits this girl quite well. Wuming smiled. Wuming watched with interest as Ilya received the order to go to the toilet. With a flash of light in the toilet, Ilya walked out wearing a pink magical girl outfit. She was wearing a pink blouse and a mini skirt, pink and white boots, and a small cloak on her back that looked like a pair of small wings. Her hair was tied up with 2 bunny ears, and she held a red wand in her hand. Why did you go to the toilet to transform? Rin Inbin, who was standing on the field, asked in confusion. Because I'm very shy, Ilya said weakly. How can that be? Ilya-chan, magical girls are for people to look at. Magical Annies like Miss Rin will be teased. The magic staff in Ilya's hand made a frivolous sound. Wuming heard it with his extraordinary hearing. As expected, only this shameless Ruby would say that. What are you talking about? Ruby. Rin Inbin was like an evil spirit. His eyes were red, and his back turned black as he looked at the ruby in Ilya's hand. Aya, let's get down to business. The ruby began to change the topic. If it wasn't for business today, you'd be in trouble. Rin Inbin snorted coldly, then looked at Ilya. Get ready, Ilya. What? Ilya was confused. Instantly, a large magic circle appeared under Ilya and Rin Inbin's feet. The magic circle kept spinning, complex and ever-changing, like a flower that kept blooming and withering. What is this? Ilya asked in a somewhat panicked manner. Don't worry, this is just a passage to the mirror world, Rin Inbin explained. Passage? Ilya hugged the ruby and asked in confusion. Add imaginary number axis to the 5th variable. Prepare for the reversal. Multiple spaces confirmed. The central coordinate has been fixed. Form a reflection route with a radius of 2 meters. The realm corridor's partial reversal has begun. Next, we'll go to the world where the cards exist, Rin Inbin said in an experienced tone. A world where cards exist? Ilya was even more puzzled. Yes, connected to an infinite number of mirrors. If this world is one of the mirror images, then this is the mirror world. That's the world where the rank cards are, the mirror world. To put it simply, it's the world inside the mirror. Rin Inosaka explained. In an instant, the scene before Ilya changed. The originally quiet and uninhabited campus became somewhat strange at this moment. There were still a lot of glass-like fragments floating in the sky. The coordinates are stable. The space movement is complete. Ruby, who was being hugged by Ilya, twisted her body rather humanly and said to Ilya, This is the mirror world? Ilya looked around in a daze. Ilya, they're coming. Rin Inbin shouted. What's coming? Ilya said in a panic. Then, in the middle of the field, Ilya saw an extremely strange scene. In the middle of the field, a cluster of black mist condensed and formed a black sludge that resembled a black hole. An arm reached out from the black sludge, just like in a horror movie. What is this? Ilya was a bit scared. Don't be scared, Ilya. This is the heroic spirit of the rank card, Rin Inbin said. Heroic spirit? What's that? As an elementary school student, Ilya didn't know about heroic spirits. They are heroes in human history. After they died, they became legendary existences, Rin Inbin said. The power of the rank card is provided by heroic spirits. If you want to obtain the rank card, you must first defeat the heroic spirit's power within the rank card, which is the incarnation of the heroic spirit. Do we have to fight? Ilya was a bit confused. Of course. Didn't I tell you? Rin Inbin said awkwardly. Of course not. Ilya was a bit hysterical. Let's not talk about this for now. It's coming. After hearing Rin Inbin's words, Ilya looked toward the middle of the field. A woman with a good figure, wearing a black half-exposed leather jacket and a black eye mask, stood there. Ugh! A zombie-like sound came from the woman's body. She raised her head. The gem on the eye mask was like an eyeball, emitting a strange red light. So scary. Ilya was scared. After all, 2 days ago, Ilya was just an elementary school student. Even if it was a weakened version of a heroic spirit, it wasn't something an elementary school student could defeat. Do your best, Ilya. Ilya heard Rin Enbin's encouragement, but this voice seemed to be a bit far away. Ilya helplessly looked at Rin Enbin, who was hiding far away. Ilya, get out of the way, Ruby shouted. Ilya subconsciously dodged to the side, and a short sword connected to a chain stabbed into her original spot. Attack, Ilya, Ruby said. What should I do? Ilya asked with a trembling voice. Imagine a powerful attack, Ruby said. Ilya was still a little scared. She closed her eyes and waved Ruby. A slash that tore through the atmosphere flew toward the dark servant. Boom! The sound of a hit was heard. Ilya opened her eyes and looked at it in disbelief. Oh, that's amazing, Ilya. You actually released a powerful slash. Is that so? Seems like it's effective, Ilya said weakly. Wuming stood on the roof of the mirror world. As soon as Ilya and Rin Enbin entered the mirror world, Wuming followed closely behind. With his powerful strength and the Hero King's rank card, no one discovered Wuming's trace. Looking at the immature Ilya, who could even be said to be a complete novice, Wuming couldn't help but shake his head. Really, Ilya is still too inexperienced. It's too dangerous to let Ilya, who has no combat experience, participate, Wuming said. But it's about time. Wuming smiled. Because the opponent dodged the attack, Ilya began to use a reduced power scatter shot. Then the opponent began to use a noble artifact. Ilya, leave quickly. The opponent is about to use a noble artifact, Rin Enbin shouted from behind. Just as Rin Enbin stood in front of Ilya and activated a defensive magic, a petite figure walked out of the shadows. Rank card Lancer, including Gaped Balg, Piercing Thorn Spear. Chapter 140. Gibal. May you use the Sapphire and the Lancer class card to transform her Scarlet Spear into a spear and stab forward with all her might. The spear pierced through the Dark Follower's chest. The scarlet magic circle in front of the Dark Rider shattered and disappeared. The Dark Rider spat out a mouthful of blood, and his figure slowly faded. After he disappeared, a card appeared in his place. Mayu picked up Rider's card, and the Gibal disappeared and turned into a sapphire staff. Beauty, Tor, Ilya said in surprise. Hello, Ilya, Mayu said calmly. Because they had met before and had been taught by Wu Ming, although Mayu didn't treat Ilya too coldly, their relationship could be considered to be very good. They were merely acquaintances. Ilya, is that someone you know? Rin Enbin asked. Yes, she is Big Brother's sister. I have been to Big Brother's house and met his sister. Ilya was hesitant, but she still told Rin Enbin. Oh, suddenly, a strange laughter was heard. Rin Enbin instantly gritted his teeth and said, This voice is Livia. Rin Enbin looked in the direction of the voice. Livia walked over very elegantly and looked at Rin Enbin proudly. How is it, Rin Enbin? This time I won first place. Then, Livia looked at Mayu. Thank you for your hard work, Mayu. Mayu silently handed the class card to Livia. What a pity, Rin Enbin. I will accept this card. Oh, don't be so proud. Rin Enbin suddenly rushed over and punched Livia's face. Livia was sent flying to the ground. Ilya and Mayu looked at this scene and didn't know what to do. Since you saw it, you should have come to help earlier, you bastard. Rin Enbin clenched his fist and stared at Livia. Rubbing her face in pain, Livia crawled up and said, You bastard. To actually do such a thing to a lady's face, I really hate barbarians like you the most. Cut the crap. Isn't that a sneak attack? As they quarreled, the two of them wrestled with each other. Oh, looks like it's developing into something like this, Ruby said helplessly. Speaking of which, what's going on? Ilya's shoulders drooped as she said weakly. At this moment, the mirror world suddenly began to shake. What's wrong? Ilya asked. Because the card was recycled, the mirror world began to collapse, Ruby explained. Then let's hurry back. Ilya was starting to panic. Not bad. It seems Wrath's attacks have become even more exquisite. Luvia panted heavily as she spoke, cutting a sorry figure. Ah, as long as I know your attack path, then I can definitely dodge it. Rin Inbin was also panting heavily, and his face was haggard. Looks like it's not going to work. They're already using body language. Looking at the two of them who were still wrestling with each other, and Ruby who was replying calmly, Ilya was confused. How can you two still chat so calmly? At this moment, Mayu walked to the center of the three of them. Sapphire, Mayu said. Yes, master, Sapphire replied. At the same time, just like before they entered, a large magic circle appeared under their feet. However, unlike Ruby's magic circle, Sapphire's magic circle was bluish-purple. Delete the imaginary axis from the measurement variable. Fix the center coordinate. Set the radius to 6 meters. Form a reflection path. Return to the normal world. Instantly, light enveloped everyone, and then Ilya, Mayu, and the others disappeared. Wuming watched them disappear and said, Then let's go, Kalas. Yes, master. Reality. Shuayu residence. Wuming was sitting in the courtyard, waiting for Mayu's return. After a while, Mayu walked into Shuayu residence. I'm back, brother Wuming, Mayu said. Welcome back. How is it, Mayu? Are you all right? Wuming smiled warmly. I'm fine, don't worry, brother Wuming. Then, Mayu seemed to want to say something, but stopped. Wuming naturally noticed Mayu's abnormality. Do you have anything else to ask, Mayu? Wuming stroked Mayu's head and said warmly, Brother Wuming, what does he think of Ilya? Mayu asked. Wuming, who was secretly following Mayu, naturally knew why Mayu asked that. Then he said, Oh, Ilya, she's just an ordinary elementary school student. Is that so? Mayu lowered her head and pondered. Oh, right. Do you want to go to school, Mayu? The next day, Ilya leaned on the table weakly. I'm so sleepy. At this time, the homeroom teacher, Daigu Fujimura, walked in. Hello, everyone. Although it's a little sudden, a new student transferred in today. Please come in. When he finished speaking, Mayu walked to the podium wearing Suichu Hara Academy's elementary school uniform and holding her handbag. I'm Shitsuki Mayu. Please take care of me. Mayu bowed. Oh, so cute. How polite. Yes, yes, yes. Many people started discussing. Ilya raised her head in disbelief and looked at Mayu. What? Daikawa Fujimura wrote Mayu's name on the blackboard. Then, he turned around and slapped the table. May just came back from abroad. There are many things that she doesn't understand. You have to take care of her. Yes, the children said in unison. Let me see. Mayu, you can sit behind Ilya. Yes, sensei. Mayu walked to the table behind Ilya and sat down. Ilya, who was originally very sleepy, was now very careful, as if she was sitting on pins and needles. After a while, because Daikawa Fujimura forgot to take the photocopied teaching materials, this lesson was temporarily self-study. Ilya found an excuse and left the classroom. Ilya sighed. Oh, what an old-fashioned plot. Ruby came out of Ilya's hair and stood on Ilya's shoulder. Ruby put away her staff, leaving only 3 pairs of small wings with curved edges. Yeah, mysterious transfer student has appeared, Ilya said weakly. This is something that often appears in magical girl stories. A rather polite and clear voice sounded. Ilya turned around and saw that it was the magic staff that Mayu was holding last night. At this moment, just like Ruby, she put away the staff, leaving only the curved edges of the staff with a bow on it. Isn't this Xiao Lan? Ruby greeted her enthusiastically. We haven't seen each other for an entire night, sister. Sister? Ilya exclaimed in surprise. Chapter 141. On the rooftop of the Sui Kun Yuan Academy Primary School, Ilya, Ruby, and Sapphire walked there. What's the matter with sister? Ilya asked. It's like this. Little Blue and I were made at the same time. Ruby said, I'm Sapphire. Nice to meet you. Please take care of my sister. Sapphire bowed like a human. Don't mention it. Please take care of me. I'm Ilya. Ilya quickly returned to salute. She's so polite, Ilya thought. Little Blue, who are you? Ruby asked. Yes, my new master is Mayu-sama. Speaking of which, if it weren't for Wuming Sama, I might not have been able to conclude a contract with Meiyu Sama. Hey, is it related to Big Brother? Ilya asked. Yes. After separating from my sister, I was looking for a fated person everywhere. As a result, I found a magic aura left behind by Meiyu Sama. Then, I followed it all the way and came to Wuming Sama's house. Ilya and the Ruby listened attentively. Wuming Sama's house is a very powerful magic workshop. It would take a long time for me to break the enchantment outside. It was because of Wuming Sama's permission that I entered Shuayu's house. After discussing with Meiyu Sama, I signed a contract. If that's the case, Big Brother is also a magician? Ilya said with a look of realization. Well, Wuming Sama's magic is quite powerful. I even thought that Mr. Wuming was a servant. When she first saw Wuming, Sapphire was also shocked. Because Wuming didn't deliberately hide his magic and aura, Sapphire easily noticed Wuming's huge magic. In fact, Sapphire wasn't wrong. After Wuming was transformed into a class card, he automatically condensed into a physical body and continued to rely on his own magic. Although he was not the same as a servant, there was no difference. But there was one thing, and that was Wuming had become stronger. That was because the servant was slightly different from the heroic spirits in the class card. Servants would be strengthened or weakened by their own class, master's magic power, region, and other aspects. However, the class card stored the power of the heroic spirit. Although it was also limited by the class and the reputation of the region, it was not affected by the master's magic power. In other words, Wuming, who relied solely on his massive mana, received the greatest boost in all his attributes. Of course, Wuming was just an accident. After all, rank cards were originally provided for human magicians. If they were used by human magicians, all kinds of restrictions would reappear. Even if a class card materialized, it would be an empty shell without consciousness. It would only instinctively attack pure magic blocks in its own territory, absorbing the existence of the underground spirit veins. By the way, is Ilya's big brother the one you went to that night? Ruby asked. Because it was a family freeloading dinner, Ilya did not bring Ruby with her, but left her at home. Well, Big Brother's family is very big, just like a noble. Ilya nodded with a different look in her eyes. Hey, I really want to see the Big Brother that made Ilya infatuated. Ruby began to tease again. What? Of course not. Ilya bashfully patted the Ruby, while the Ruby nimbly dodged. By the way, little blues master Meiyu is really strong. She can even use the class cards restriction, include. Ruby quickly changed the topic. Yes, I was also very surprised at that time. I didn't expect Meiyu Sama's talent to be so high. Well, if she has such a powerful magician brother, it's normal to have such a high talent. But she really deserves to be called Little Blue. She can actually find such a great master, Ruby said so. Using this excuse could also be considered as comforting Ilya. After all, Ilya's performance yesterday was truly too weak. I'm sorry that I'm not such a great master. By the way, what's that restriction, include, that you guys were talking about? Ilya shrugged, then raised her doubts. Did Big Sister not explain it to Lord Ilya? Sapphire asked with a confused and surprised voice. Oh, I forgot. Then, Sapphire told her about the class card. So that's the case. Ilya seemed to have understood something important, and her face was filled with satisfaction. A legendary hero. He seems so powerful. Ilya smiled. Due to some unknown reason, the class cards didn't appear at the same time. After 2 class cards appeared, the Magic Association sent a magician to retrieve those 2 cards. Sapphire continued. Wuming and Zelik had also discussed this problem. It seemed that because of Wuming's unusual class card, it caused the class cards and Meiyu's appearance to be chaotic. The class cards are created from extremely advanced magic theories. The Magic Association can only create a restriction, include, for the time being. That's because the Great Master, the person who created me and Big Sister, intervened and changed it to Lord Livia and Lord Ling, As for us, because the two of them didn't cooperate, we left them and went to find our own masters. Really, just a pair of ponytails at an older age is equivalent to a magical girl. Ruby mocked in the end. Then, how many class cards have you collected now? Ilya asked. We've already retrieved Archer, Lancer, and the Rider class card that Mayu-sama defeated yesterday. We have a total of 3 class cards. Sapphire said. Ilya, do you still remember the Archer that Ling showed you? That's a class card. Ruby said. Ilya recalled the card that Ling in Osaka showed her that day. I see. Mayu-sama used the Lancer class card, the famous weapon of Cuculin, the son of light in Celtic mythology. It's a magic spear that can definitely hit the heart. Sapphire said. That dangerous? Ilya was surprised. Of course. After all, this is a weapon used by legendary heroes. Ruby interjected while floating in the air. At that moment, a voice sounded. Sapphire. Ilya turned to look at the rooftop entrance. Mayu was standing there in her school uniform. Don't run around. I'm worried. Mayu said, because Mayu had been taken care of by Wuming's exclusive magic attire. Emerald. Mayu was very concerned about Sapphire. I'm sorry, Mayu-sama. Sapphire hurriedly flew over. At that moment, Mayu looked at Ilya, and Ilya looked at Mayu. Both sides fell into silence. Chapter 142. Hello. I'm Ilya, Ilya said shyly. Yes, I'm Mayu. Then, as the school bell rang, the two hurriedly left the rooftop. Then, Mayu showed genius-like talent in mathematics, art, home economics, sports, and other aspects. This shocked the group of primary school students and teachers, and even the homeroom teacher, Daikawa Fujimura, went crazy. In the evening, Ilya sat on a small chair in the park with a defeated expression. I say, it's about time. Do you need to keep being so depressed? Ruby said, Sai, you're right. It's not a big deal. I just didn't expect geniuses to really exist. Ilya sighed and said. Then, Ilya got up and was about to leave. Just as she turned her head, she saw Mayu passing by the park and Wuming who came to pick her up. Big brother and Mayu. Ilya was a little nervous. Yo, Ilya, why are you alone in the park? Wuming greeted Ilya. Mayu nodded at Ilya and did not say anything. It's nothing. I'm going home now. Ilya touched her head with a blush. She could not say that she was sitting here to relax because of the blow. Then, do you want me to send you home? Wuming said gently. Then I'll have to trouble you, brother Wuming. Ilya smiled shyly. Then, Wuming held Mayu's hand and walked on the road with Ilya beside him. As if she could not bear it anymore, Ilya spoke. Big brother, are you also a magician? Ilya asked carefully. Wuming smiled at this. I'm really sorry. I didn't expect Ilya to be related to magic, so I didn't tell you my identity back then. Wuming's apology made Ilya even more embarrassed. She hurriedly waved her hand. No. I'm the one who's sorry for prying into other people's privacy. Ruby, who couldn't bear to watch any longer, patted Ilya's head and said resentfully. Why are you apologizing? Ilya blushed and didn't know what to say. It's okay, Ilya. Inquiring about such things in the magic world isn't considered invading one's privacy. You can barely be considered half a magician now. Wuming smiled and patted Ilya's head. Why is a half? Ilya asked in confusion. That's because Ilya is a magical girl. How could you be a magician? Ruby cheered. Shut up. Ilya angrily grabbed the ruby and stuffed it in her school bag. She then looked at Wuming with a red face. Wuming continued. The reason why I said that Ilya is half a magician is because Ilya has just come into contact with magic. There are many things that she doesn't understand. Ilya nodded her little head. She didn't even know about heroic spirits yesterday. If Sapphire didn't explain it to her today, Ilya might not even know about it now. To be honest, it's best for Ilya to be a magical girl. Wuming's tone began to change. How should she say it? In short, it gave Ilya a feeling of joy. How should I say it, Ilya? It's best for you to leave the magic world after you finish reclaiming your rank cards. Then, you can peacefully be a primary school student. After all, The magic world has darkness that you can't imagine, Wu Ming said earnestly. Just as Ilya was stunned by Wu Ming's words, Wu Ming's tone changed. Well, however, even if you continue to choose this path, I will still protect you. Wu Ming's tone was unusually gentle as he stroked Ilya's head. These gentle words and gentle strokes caused Ilya's face to turn red. She looked at Wu Ming foolishly, as if she had fallen into some fantasy. What's wrong, Ilya? Are you all right? Wu Ming pinched Ilya's little face and asked worriedly. No, I'm fine. Ilya quickly reacted. Her face was red as she waved her hands frantically. We should hurry up and leave. Sarah will be worried, Ilya said. Then Ilya strode in front. After sending Ilya home, Wu Ming held Meiyo's hand and walked on the road. Does Brother Wu Ming like Ilya fair? Meiyu suddenly asked. Why do you ask? Wu Ming looked at Meiyu and asked in confusion. Because Brother Wu Ming is very concerned about Ilya fair. Meiyu was silent for a while before speaking. Wu Ming smiled and stroked Meiyo's head. Our Meiyu can't be envious, right? Meiyo's face turned red. She shook her head and said, I'm not. However, no matter how one looked at it, she seemed a little arrogant. That's because Ilya gives me a feeling like Meiyu, Wu Ming said seriously. This time, Meiyu was confused. My feeling, looking at the familiar surroundings, Wu Ming nodded at Meiyu. That's right, Meiyu. Ilya gives me a feeling like you. Both are holy grails. Meiyu's eyes focused. Wu Ming continued. I once sensed a strange magic power in Ilya's body. I secretly checked Ilya's body and found that there was a seal deep in Ilya's body. Wu Ming walked to the door of Shuo Yu's residence, pushed open the door, and walked in with Meiyu. Because I once thought of sealing your holy grail physique, I studied this seal. Wu Ming sat on the stone bench in the courtyard and let Meiyu sit beside him. So it's not that there's no holy grail war in this world, but that someone stopped the holy grail war from happening. So, Brother Wu Ming is concerned about Ilya fair out of sympathy? Meiyu said. How can that be? Wu Ming shook his head with a smile. That's because Ilya is also a cute child. I like children the most. Just like how I like you, Meiyu. It's not because you're holy grails that I care about you, but because I simply like humans, like you cute children. Then, Wu Ming walked to Meiyu and squatted down. So, I didn't choose to take care of you out of sympathy or other reasons, but because we met. Wu Ming stroked Meiyu's head and looked at her eyes that were the same color as his. It's because of such a simple geographical reason that you became my sister and my beloved. Although Wu Ming's words made Meiyu blush, Meiyu still listened to Wu Ming very seriously. How about maintaining a good relationship with Ilya? Looking at Wu Ming's smiling face, Meiyu blushed and nodded. Okay, I'm going to cook. What does Meiyu want to eat? Wu Ming stood up and said. Omelet rice, Meiyu said in a low voice. Then make a deluxe, special version. Meiyu looked at Wu Ming's back and smiled in a daze. Brother Wu Ming. Chapter 143. After dinner, Meiyu, dressed in a blue-purple magical girl outfit, went to Wu Ming, who was admiring the moon. Are you going, Meiyu? Wu Ming said with his eyes closed while drinking a cup of tea. Although Meiyu was a little curious why Brother Wu Ming closed his eyes while admiring the moon, Meiyu nodded. Well, Sister Livia said that we will meet near the Winterwood City Bridge tonight. Well, be careful. That class card is a bit tricky. Wu Ming opened his eyes and looked at Meiyu. Well, I know, Brother Wu Ming. Meiyu left the Shuo Suki house, and Wu Ming, who was sitting on the edge of the house, stood up. Are you worried about Miss Meiyu, Master? Kalas Balit on Wu Ming's head said. Well, that's for sure. You know, now the two mirror realms near the Winterwood City Bridge have been merged, and one of them is a caster class card. Now, casters should have built a magic workshop. Although not everyone's magic workshop was as crazy as Wu Ming's magic workshop, he was still able to betray the witch of a Kanzaki. Just the fact that he was a Kanzaki character was something that couldn't be ignored. Kala still doesn't understand why you want to put the caster class card back in place. Even if it's for training, I don't think Miss Meiyu and Miss Ilya have the strength to defeat the other side. Golden Green's dragon horn glowed, and it kept making sounds. Because of this, I have to ensure their safety, and I have to do it without the other side knowing. Wuming walked out of the Shuo Suki house, set up a magic barrier, and headed toward the Winterwood City Bridge. I can't stay in this world all the time. I'll let them get some growth so that I can rest assured. Collis didn't speak, but Collis always felt that Wuming said to let Meiyu grow, but in fact, he was more flustered than anyone else. Master, there seems to be a professional term for what you said. I remember it called Sundara. Wuming, who was walking on a road, slipped and almost fell. Wuming stabilized his body and stroked the dragon horn headdress. This information is wrong. Delete it. Yes, Master. Winterwood City Bridge. Rin, Inbin, and Livia stood somewhere, waiting for the arrival of Ilya and Meiyu. A pink figure came over. Big Sister Ling, Big Sister Livia. Ilya came over and greeted the two. You're here, Ilya, Rin Inbin replied. That's strange. Why is Meiyu late? You should know that Meiyu is very punctual. Livia, who had more or less understood Meiyu after interacting with her, was a little worried. At this moment, a petite figure came over. Sorry, I'm late, Meiyu said while panting. Because she wanted to spend more time with her brother, Meiyu realized that there wasn't enough time, so she hurried over. It's fine, it's not time yet. Livia looked at the time and said to Meiyu, Don't be careless, Ilya. Be on guard against both the enemy and Livia. Rin Inbin said to Livia. Ilya had a helpless expression. I really hope that you won't provoke us when you quarrel, Ruby said. Meiyu, hurry up and deal with it. Remember to involve Rin Inbin while dealing with the enemy, Livia said elegantly. Apart from the latter half, I understand the rest, Meiyu said helplessly. Then, I think we should hurry up and retrieve the 4th class card, Rin Inbin said as he looked at Ilya and Ruby. Meiyu. Livia also looked at Meiyu and Sapphire. Yes, I understand. Okay. As Ruby and Sapphire chanted an incantation, a magic circle appeared under their feet again. Connect. Following Ilya and Mio's final words, they instantly disappeared from where they stood. Wuming came here and sensed the remnants of magic in the air. You've already entered? Then let's go in, Collis. Yes, Master. Remember to use the invisibility spell. Don't let them see me. Yes, Master. With a flash of light, Wuming also disappeared from where he was. About a dozen seconds later, Ilya, Meiyu, and the others who had disappeared earlier reappeared on the spot. They all looked battered and exhausted. It hurts and it's so hot. What is that? Ilya said in shock. It's really bad. We seem to have encountered Castor, who has been prepared for a long time. Livia wiped her face with a handkerchief and said, Castor, a magician? Ilya sighed. Yes, there is no doubt that the opponent is a powerful magician. Ruby also sighed. According to the magic circle and incantation used by the opponent, it can be determined that it is not any kind of magic that exists in modern times. It can be determined that the opponent is using the long-lost kamikaze magic. Sapphire analyzed. That's not the worst. The main thing is that there's a large range of mana-pointing control platform around Castor, so our attacks can't hit her. Rin Inbin pinched his chin and said in distress. I wanted to ask just now, what is that mana-pointing control platform? This kind of new term was somewhat unfamiliar to Ilya, who had just stepped into the world of magicians. That is a defensive platform that can direct the flow of magic. Generally speaking, this kind of control platform is placed in a special place. I didn't expect that the opponent can make such a large piece. Rin Inbin said, according to our judgment, the opponent's mana-pointing control platform can only defend downward. That is to say, as long as we fly into the air, we can attack her. Sapphire said, but this made Rin Inbin and Livia somewhat distressed. But it is really difficult to let Ilya and Meiyu suddenly learn flying magic that they have never learned before. Is that so? Ilya's voice came from behind the two. They saw Ilya floating in the air, looking at the two with some excitement. What's going on? Ilya, how did you suddenly learn how to fly? Rin Inbin said. Amazing. Ilya, you actually learned a difficult flying magic in an instant. Ruby said happily. Hey, Don't magical girls know how to fly? Ilya tilted her head and said innocently. Rin Inosaka, on the other hand, was shocked by Ilya's words. Damn it. May you also fly immediately. Livia said, not to be outdone. After a moment of silence, May you said such a sentence. Humans can't fly. Just like Tu was shocked, Livia was also shocked. Wuming, who had quietly come out, hid behind a tree and looked helplessly at the calm Mayu. As expected of Mayu, you actually think the same as me. Wuming smiled awkwardly. Chapter 144. In the middle of the night, Mayu returned to the Shuayu residence. Did something happen, Mayu? Wuming stood at the door and said to Mayu, who was in a sorry state. Mayu nodded, looking a little depressed. Wuming walked to Mayu, touched her head, and said, It's okay, Big Brother is here. If you have any difficulties, Big Brother will help you solve them. Looking at Wuming's smiling face, Mayu also recovered some of her spirit, and then said, Brother Wuming, can you teach me how to fly? Of course. How about this? Tomorrow morning, I'll take you to learn how to fly. How about it? Out of trust in her brother, Mayu quickly nodded. After Mayu took a bath, because Wuming saw Mayu's disappointment, under Wuming's care, Mayu fell asleep. Wuming left the room and gently closed the door. Are you really going to teach Miss Mayu how to fly, Master? Collis complained. After all, although Wuming's talent is high, after all, the magic that Wuming knows is some high-level magic. Thinking back to when Wuming taught Gilgamesh, he guided and taught him, letting him awaken magic abilities on his own. It's not that he was unwilling to give the original 18 Lune to Gilgamesh, but Gilgamesh refused at that time. Wuming's face turned red, and he coughed awkwardly, then said, Ahem, there are many ways to let Mayu fly, but now is a good time to train Mayu. After all, Mayu can be said to be a genius no matter what she does. Are you saying that because Miss Mayu lost to Miss Ilya in flying magic, so she suffered blow? Collis asked. Wuming walked to the bedroom, pushed the door open, and continued. It's not considered a blow. After all, Mayu is a strong child. She just can't find a clue now and is confused. Mayu's strength is not like that of an ordinary little girl. Although Wuming's teaching in the past 5 years is also crucial, Mayu's strong character is cultivated by herself. In order not to drag my brothers down, this is what Mayu once said. How should I say it? Mayu is a little too much of a believer in science, causing some magic that requires imagination to be unable to be implemented. Just like flying, if a person subconsciously feels that they can't fly, then no matter what, they can't succeed. What do you mean? Collis asked. Let Mayu change to a way that she can accept. Anyway, Mayu's purpose is just to stay in the air. I see. Wuming lay down and put Collis on the table. Actually, Collis, you don't have to compliment me in disguise. Collis did not speak. I don't believe that the purely auxiliary magic gift made by Gemwold Zelik doesn't have extraordinary wisdom. Wuming smiled. Don't think that I'm quite smart usually. In fact, I'm very afraid of using my brain. I know. Although I said that I treat you as family, you must not be able to let it go. Collis was silent. Suddenly being told that you have a fixed master, suddenly being told that you can't change your master, suddenly being told that you must obey your master's orders, suddenly being told that your freedom is forever limited. Wuming's tone began to become heavy. That must be quite painful. Collis continued to be silent. So, if you can, please treat me as a real family. Okay, Collis? Wuming's tone changed and said tenderly, I know, Master. Collis replied. Then, I'll trouble you a lot in the future, Collis. Yes. Collis's voice contained unprecedented emotion. If Collis was only loyal to her master like a counselor before, then now she was treating him like family. If there was a gap between Wuming and Collis before, then there was no gap between Collis and Wuming now, just like Wuming and Mayu. It was both warm and comforting. After Wuming fell asleep, the golden dragon horn shone with a different light. Is this the feeling of love? The next day, both Wuming and Mayu woke up early. After eating the breakfast prepared by Wu Ming brought Meiyu to a barren land on Yuanzhong Mountain through a portal. Let's do it here, Meiyu. Wu-Ming took a few steps forward and said, Okay. At this moment, Meiyu had already changed into a magical girl's clothes. For some reason, Meiyu was unwilling to transform in front of Wu-Ming, just like how Ilya did not want to transform in front of others. It was just that Meiyu was targeting Wu-Ming alone. Then, Wu-Ming tossed a pendant necklace to Meiyu. It was a pendant with a single feather in the shape of a pendant. Brother Wu-Ming, what's this? Meiyu looked at Wu-Ming in confusion. Wu-Ming said, This is a magic tool that allows the wearer to fly. As long as the incantation is chanted, the necklace will allow the wearer to fly for an unlimited amount of time. Unlimited? Meiyu was shocked. I'm afraid this tool can only be created with a magical domain. Meiyu grabbed Sapphire and analyzed. The point is, as long as you wear this necklace, Meiyu, you don't need to learn to fly. These words made Meiyu and Sapphire stunned, but Meiyu reacted and shook her head. Then she said, I don't want to rely on these external forces. I want to learn to fly by myself. Looking at Meiyu's firm eyes, Wu-Ming smiled. I knew you would say that. Then, Wu-Ming began to teach. Meiyu, first of all, you have to know what your ultimate goal is. Wu-Ming rarely showed a serious face and looked at Meiyu seriously. The ultimate goal is to defeat Castor and recover the rank card, Meiyu said. Wu-Ming nodded and continued to ask, Why do you want to learn to fly? That's because you can't attack Castor without flying to a high altitude, Meiyu said. So, why do you have to learn to fly? Wu-Ming smiled, and his rare serious face was broken. Hey! Wu-Ming's words made Meiyu stunned, and then she thought of something, and her face turned red. Brother Wu-Ming, thank you very much. Meiyu bowed excitedly. Wu-Ming knocked Meiyu's little head and smiled. Little fool, we are a family. You don't need to thank me. Meiyu smiled shyly. Then, Wu-Ming said, So, you should know how to practice. Well, Brother Wu-Ming has helped me a lot. I already know how to achieve the goal of defeating Castor. Meiyu nodded. Then I'll go first. Come on, Meiyu. Wu-Ming said and opened the portal. Well, Brother Wu-Ming, goodbye. Meiyu said goodbye to Wu-Ming with a rosy face. I'm really looking forward to it, Meiyu. Chapter 145. The next day at night, Ilya, Meiyu, Rin Inbin, and Livia stood together near the Winterwood City Bridge. Then, only for today, let's temporarily join forces. Rin Inbin said, Oh, although I don't want to admit it, you monkey can really help a little. Livia said. The two once again confronted each other. Regarding the argument between the two, Ilya and others expressed that they were not interested. Great. Meiyu, we can fight together. Ilya said to Meiyu. Yeah. Meiyu's face was red, and she was a little embarrassed. Yesterday, after Wu-Ming left, when Meiyu was practicing her method, Ilya appeared nearby. Wu-Ming didn't know what happened between the two, but Meiyu was very happy when she came home yesterday. Let's start. With Rin Inbin and Livia's orders, Ruby and Sapphire jointly launched the magic circle. The red and blue magic circle reflected each other, and the speed was much faster than before. When they escaped from Castor's mirror world, Ruby and Sapphire also jointly cast the magic circle. Otherwise, with the speed of their magic circle, they would have been intercepted by Castor. They disappeared in an instant. Wu-Ming appeared again and looked at the scene of Meiyu and Ilya just now. It seems that Meiyu and Ilya's relationship is good. It should be like this. Meiyu is very lacking in friendship. Wu-Ming said lightly. So, do you still want to enter the mirror world, Master? Kalis asked, but she didn't move at all. Don't you know? Why are you still asking me? Wu-Ming laughed. Knowing is knowing. You're still my master after all. Etiquette cannot be neglected. Kalis said, and then the golden-green dragon horn moved. Kalis, who had untied the knot in her heart, had become the same as Ruby, Sapphire, and other similar creatures. She no longer stubbornly maintained her previous shape and began to change her shape automatically. Let's go. Although I believe that Meiyu and the others can overcome Castor Medea, This is the mirror world that is the fusion of two cards. Yes. Subsequently, light flashed beneath Wuming's feet as a magic array appeared and enveloped Wuming. Inside Castor's mirror world, Mayu and Ilya flew into the air and kept rushing toward Castor's position in the air. Rin and Osaka and Luvia, who stayed on the ground, could only watch helplessly. After all, not to mention whether their attacks could reach Castor's position or not, their magic might not work on Castor. In the air, Ilya looked at Mayu curiously. After all, Mayu was still unable to fly yesterday. She could only rely on magic to compress the pressure in the air to form a temporary stable platform for her to jump, move, and so on. But in Ilya's eyes, Mayu didn't rely on these methods at the moment, but she was really flying. After dodging a magic cannon, Ilya, who was still in a daze, quickly cleared her mind and began to focus on the situation in front of her. Mayu constantly dodged the magic cannons made by Castor and rushed toward Castor's position. Mayu looked at the necklace hanging on her neck and remembered what Wuming said to Mayu last night when he entrusted the necklace to her. After Mayu came back from the exercise, Mayu rested for a while, and Wuming handed it over. Mayu, take this. Wuming took the single-piece wing-shaped pendant necklace and looked at Mayu. Brother Wuming, what is this? Mayu tilted her head and asked puzzledly. Wuming placed the necklace in Mayu's hand and said, Tomorrow, we'll have to fight with our lives on the line, so it's best to ensure that we can fly safely. This necklace is only a temporary loan to you, so remember to return it. Mayu had already put it on when she came to the Winterwood City Bridge. After all, this was brother's blessing. Mayu held the necklace tightly, and then rushed toward Castor even harder. Because the plan was for Ilya to attack and harass Mayu, Ilya was very close to Castor at the moment. Looking for the right time, Ilya held the ruby and began to gather magic. Scatter bullets, fire. With Ilya's clear voice, a large number of pink magic bullets were fired from the top of the ruby. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Mayu, who was close to Castor, took out Lancer's rank card. Rank card Lancer. Mayu, who was about to use Lancer's rank card, found that Castor suddenly disappeared in front of her. Teleportation. Then, Mayu quickly activated the defense facility. Sapphire. Convert all magic into physical protection and magic barrier. Yes, Master. At the moment when Sapphire completed the defense, as if there was a delay, a huge magic bullet hit Mayu, and Mayu fell on the Winterwood City Bridge in the mirror world, forming a lot of smoke. Mayu, Ilya, Rin-Enbin, Luvia, and the others were shocked. I was really careless. As expected of the Witch of Kanagami, teleportation is nothing. Ruby was distressed. Then, Mayu walked out of the smoke. Mayu's body was not damaged at all. Her body exuded a little light, which was a sign that the defense facility was activated. Looking at the unscathed Mayu, Ilya and the others were relieved, and then Ilya rushed up again, acting as a bait. Mayu, on the other hand, was glad that he remembered what Wu Ming said yesterday. Mayu, you have to remember, the opponent is a magician of Kanagami. She may have super high-level magic like teleportation, so you must be very careful. Wu Ming was worried that Mayu would underestimate the enemy. Although it was a little strange why there was a delay, Mayu didn't have time to think about it. Looking at Ilya, who was still trying to harass Mayu, Mayu shook her head and quickly joined the battlefield. Wu Ming, who was in the shadow, sighed. As expected of Mayu, she reacted in an instant. Kalas complained, Isn't it because you used magic to interfere with Castor's casting speed? Wu Ming smiled awkwardly and then said, Even without me, Mayu will be fine. Wu Ming was right. Even without Wu Ming's interference, even if the magic cannon hit Mayu, it would not cause any damage to Mayu, who had already activated her defense. The interference was just a subconscious behavior of Wu Ming because he was worried about Mayu. In order to create the conditions for Mayu, Ilya poured her fantasy power into the ruby and launched a large AoE scattershot attack. Taking advantage of the moment when Castor was delayed, Mayu immediately released the long-prepared bombardment. Maximum bombardment. Fire. A huge beam of light went straight to the ground. Several people were relieved in an instant. Just when several people were about to recover Castor's rank card, Castor, who they thought had been defeated, reappeared in the distant sky. Chapter 146. Looking at the somewhat embarrassed Castor, everyone panicked. Could it be? Did he use spatial teleportation to escape? Rin Imbin exclaimed in shock. Judging from the level of the magic array, the mirror world would definitely be destroyed. When Mayu saw that, she immediately rushed toward Castor. Wait! Mayu, come back quickly! Livia shouted. At this moment, Castor was too far away from them. Even Mayu, who was the closest to them, couldn't reach Castor before he released the magic array. Damn it, it's too late, Mayu said through gritted teeth. Mayu, stand on top. Suddenly, Ilia's voice came from behind. Mayu turned around and saw a huge pink magic ball. Mayu instantly understood Ilia's intention. The instant the mana ball arrived behind her, Mayu used her mana to create a platform and stood on it. The force of the magic ball pushed Mayu toward Castor. Rank card, Lancer. Mio held the sapphire in one hand and the rank card in the other hand, and said while combining the two, Gay Bulb. The scarlet spear penetrated the magic circle and penetrated Castor's chest. Mayu stood not far behind Castor and put away her spear. The three gigantic magic arrays collapsed, transforming into motes of mana that disappeared. Castor also turned into a Castor class card. Mayu picked up the fallen class card. Sapphire said, Class card Castor, recycling successful. Thank you for your hard work, Lady Mayu. Sapphire said with concern. Yes. Mayu didn't say much and simply nodded. Then, Mayu looked at Ilia, who was flying toward her. Alicia Field is truly a miraculous person. I've never thought that I could use a magic ball to increase my speed. Mayu, Sama, I think you and Lady Ilia are very compatible. You should contact Lady Ilia more. After all, the two of you are one. Sapphire said. Mayu nodded as if she agreed. At that moment, Rin Inbin and Livia, who were quarreling again, stopped. That's strange. Why hasn't the mirror world collapsed after so long? Rin Inbin asked. Livia also nodded, and then they looked at each other as if they thought of something. Could it be? Ta, ta, ta. There was a sound of steel touching the ground. Somewhere close to Rin, Tasaka, and Livia, a servant wrapped in black mana mist walked over. The black mist made it hard to see her face, but the magic sword in her hand was clearly reflected in the eyes of Rin, Inbin, and Livia. There was no doubt that it was the materialization of Saber's class card. Without any hesitation, Saber raised the sword that had accompanied her for her entire life in a fluid motion. A large amount of magic gathered, and then Saber swung her sword, and a powerful black magic shockwave shot toward Rin, Inbin, and Livia. Damn it! It's too late. Just when the two of them were in despair, a white mist appeared and offset the black magic shockwave. Heaven Age, resist God. Following the activation of the relic, the white mist rushed towards Saber. Saber quickly blocked with her sword, and the white mist turned into a dragon claw and hit it hard. Boom! Saber was repelled, and then Wooming appeared from the white mist. Looking at the man with blonde hair and a white robe, the two of them asked, Who are you? Rin Inbin and Livia asked. After all, I didn't know Wooming. Zelik told you about me, right? Wooming turned his head and looked at the two of them with his golden pupils and said. The two of them quickly reacted. Are you the hero spirit that Master said will help us? Rin Inbin exclaimed. But why did you only appear now? Livia said with some suspicion. The two of them had been in Winterwood City for almost 4 days, but Wooming never contacted them, so it was inevitable that they would be suspected. That's because I don't have to come out at all, but the current situation is not something you can handle, so I came out. After all, Zelik only asked Wooming to take care of the magician who came to collect the class card, not to help them all the time. With that said, Rin Inbin and Livia felt relieved. Zelig did say that the hero spirit in Winterwood City wouldn't help them all the time and would only take care of them a little. In addition, the two of them were people who didn't like to admit defeat, which was why Rin, Enbin, and Livia didn't directly look for Wooming when they came to Winterwood City. All right, the current enemy isn't something you can handle. Leave the rest to me. Wooming wasn't bragging. If Ruby and Sapphire were still in the hands of Rin, Enbin, and Livia, they might be able to contend with Saber. But now, Ruby and Sapphire had recognized Ilya and Mayu as their masters. With Ilya and Mayu's current strength, they were far from being able to deal with Saber. After all, she was someone Wooming knew. No, it should be said that Wooming taught her before. Wooming looked at Saber, who walked out of the smoke unscathed, and said lightly, "I actually want to fight you. I don't know if this is a curse, Artoria." As if Saber heard him, her figure paused for a moment, and then continued to walk toward Wooming. After all, the servant transformed by the class card only had instincts and didn't have the slightest consciousness. Being able to pause for a moment was considered as being affected by the subconscious mind, and Wooming didn't treat Saber as the real Artoria. She was just a magical amalgamation with Artoria's appearance and ability. Saber raised the blackened holy sword in her hand and pointed it at Wooming. Wooming also took out the holy lance, mythical Yggdrasil. Since magic reduces the damage of the class card, transformed into a servant, then let's directly determine the winner with brute force. Finished speaking, Wooming rushed up with a vigorous stride. Saber didn't want to be outdone and followed up with her sword. Bang! 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 The sound of weapons colliding with each other was constantly heard. Wooming and Saber kept changing their positions. In order to avoid affecting Rin, Enbin, and Livia behind him, Wooming deliberately led Saber away from here and to the river. On the shore, Rin, Inosaka, and Livia fell silent as they watched the chaotic battle between the two of them. Indeed, Saber's ability was not something that the two of them could defeat. Not to mention, magic would reduce the damage of Saber, who had magic skills, even more. At this time, Mayu and Ilya, who were attracted by the fire, landed on the ground. Brother Wooming. Chapter 147. Brother Wooming? Mayu was surprised. Why is Big Brother here? Ilya asked in confusion. Do you know this heroic spirit? Rin Enbin asked in surprise. What the hell is going on here? Livia was confused as well. That's Mayu's older brother. He stayed at our house for a while, Ilya said. He's Mayu's older brother? Rin Enbin and Livia asked in confusion. Rin Enbin found it strange that the big brother Ilya always talked about was actually a heroic spirit. Livia also found it strange that Mayu's older brother was a heroic spirit. Speaking of which, was the heroic spirit's daily life so unbelievable? Although his hair color is different from the usual big brother, this is indeed Big Brother, Ilya said. Although Ilya had never seen Wooming in this form, she knew that Wooming wasn't an ordinary person. However, she was still worried about Wooming. After all, from what she knew, Wooming was only a mysterious magician. That's incredible. Mayu's older brother is actually a heroic spirit, Rin Enbin said while rubbing his chin. Big Brother is a heroic spirit, Ilya asked. It seems like Ilya doesn't know anything. Rin Enbin and Livia thought. Everyone looked at Mayu, but Mayu didn't say anything. She only watched the battle between Wooming and Saber. Then Ilya said, Sister Rin, aren't we going to help Big Brother? Rin Enbin said, How can we help? That's a battle between superior heroic spirits. Even if you have the protection of Ruby and Sapphire, you'll only be heavily injured if you get involved. Rin Enbin's expression was grave. Based on the battle between the two heroic spirits, Rin Enbin, who had some martial arts experience, clearly sensed that both sides weren't simple heroic spirits. Even Livia had noticed that both sides were not simple. Rin Enbin is right. All we can do now is watch from the sidelines and pray that Mayu's brother could defeat his opponent, Livia said. Afterward, Ilya stopped talking and watched the battle between Wooming and Saber worriedly with everyone else. Right at that moment, The two of them separated and stood facing each other. Saber raised her black longsword, and a black light began to gather around the blade. Could that be a relic? Rin Inbin panicked. Quick, Mayu, Ilya, we feel like we're far away from here, Livia said to the two magical girls who were still watching the battle. Is it a precious artifact? Ilya said. That's right, Ilya. Through the detection of the magic power in the atmosphere, Saber's noble artifact has at least reached the A rank. It can instantly break through my and Shaolan's defense. In order to avoid being affected, I feel that it's better for us to quickly leave. It was rare for Ruby to become serious. From this, it could be seen how powerful Saber's noble artifact was. Mayu, Sama, let's quickly leave too. If we stay here, we'll just be a burden to my brother, Sapphire said. Because she met Wuming every day, Sapphire had a good impression of Wuming. Afterward, Wuming requested her to call him her brother. Understand, Mayu said. At that moment, Wuming's voice was heard. She's about to use her noble artifact. Let's quickly leave this place. The four of them quickly ran into the distance. The scene changed. On the other side, it was the battle between Wuming and Saber. As it was on the surface of the lake, their battle did not cause much damage to the surroundings. With a feint, Wuming used a Loon Rune to avoid water and stood on the surface of the water, looking at Saber. As expected of the best Saber class, plus it's because of you, she's even more difficult to deal with. Wuming said, due to the ample supply of mana, the underground spiritual vein, Saber continued to release mana, and the black mana mist continued to accompany Saber. Even in close combat, Wuming could only have a slight advantage. At that moment, Saber, who agreed with Wuming's words, raised her holy sword, and the light of darkness began to gather. Sure enough, noble artifact is the key to victory. Then, Wuming waved his hand and shouted at Mayu and the others standing on the shore. She's about to use her noble artifact. Let's quickly leave this place. Rin and Osaka and Livia, who had already seen it, began to pull Ilya and Mayu away. After seeing that there were no signs of life around, Wuming also directly activated his noble artifact. My Yggdrasil, the white holy spear turned into a liquid, wrapped Wuming's right hand, and formed a metal-colored arm guard. Wuming's right hand was attached to the water, and a huge amount of mana began to gather around him, and then it exploded in an instant. It seemed like a long time had passed, but in fact, only a few breaths passed, and Saber's black holy sword also gathered the light. Excalibur, Excalibur. Saber's demonic words came out of her mouth, accompanied by a huge black light curtain. In contrast, the huge holy tree was growing wildly. The holy tree's branches frantically emerged from the water, constantly hitting the black light curtain. The black light curtain constantly destroyed the vines and branches and rushed toward Wuming's location. Mayu and the others, who had almost retreated to a safe area, looked at the huge vines behind them colliding with the black light curtain and couldn't help but worry. The black light curtain was gradually approaching Wuming. Even if the vines grew quite fast, it seemed a little difficult in front of the black light curtain. However, Wuming would not confront the holy sword head-on. A large number of vines emerged from the water around Saber in an instant, and in just an instant, they broke through Saber's magical fog and entangled Saber. As if it lost its source, the black light curtain instantly shattered, and countless huge vines rushed towards Saber's direction. In an instant, the river in Winterwood City was covered by green vines. After noticing that Saber had become a class card, Wuming stood up. Sure enough, even if it has Artoria's power, it's still just a mana block. Just like Wuming, at this moment, Wuming's body was also made of class cards, but Wuming had consciousness. This was the difference between Wuming and other servants formed by class cards. Controlling the vines to move Saber's class card back, Wuming held it in his hand. Wuming walked to the shore, looked at Mayu and the others coming toward him, smiled and waved. Looking at the few people who wanted to say something, Wuming said directly, "Anyway, let's get out of here first." Then, Kalas, who was on top of Wuming's head, said, Magic circle. Open. With simple words, a huge magic circle appeared under Wuming's and the other's feet, and with a flash of light, they disappeared from the mirror world. Chapter 148. After the mirror world collapsed, Wuming and the others appeared near the Winterwood City Bridge in the outside world. It's amazing. When did the master make magic attire again? Ruby looked at the golden-green dragon horn on Wuming's head and asked. Sorry, unknown kindred, big sister was a little rude. Sapphire bowed and said apologetically. Golden Green flew down from Wuming's head and said to the two wands, It's okay. My name is Golden Green, Bell. It's a support magic attire specially made by Master Zelik for Master. Please take care of me. Then the dragon horn on the head made a human-like bow. Also, it's Goldie. I'm Ruby. This is my sister Sapphire, Cephia. Please take care of me. Ruby said, Big sister has troubled you. Please take care of me. Sapphire said, taking advantage of the three artificial elves' conversation, Wuming also began to talk. Mayu looked at Wuming with a puzzled expression and said, Why? Why is Brother Wuming here? Looking at Mayu's puzzled expression, Wuming touched Mayu's head. Just think of me as a stupid big brother who wants you to grow but is worried about you. Sorry, Mayu. Wuming said apologetically. No, Brother Wuming, you don't have to apologize. If it wasn't for you this time, we might have all been killed in the mirror world. Mayu shook her head and said, Mayu didn't mean to blame Wuming. Rather, Mayu was secretly happy. Wuming worried about her meant that Wuming cared about her, which made Mayu happy. That big brother. What about me? Ilya asked weakly with a red face. Wuming smiled and patted Ilya's head. Of course I care about you too. Ilya and Mayu are my younger sisters. How can an elder brother not care for his younger sisters? Wuming's words made Ilya somewhat happy, and she smiled sweetly. Speaking of which, Rin and Osaka said that class card hasn't been assigned yet. Rin Inbin looked at Wuming with a fawning expression. Oomph. You barbaric monkey, why would the Honorable Lord Heroic Spirit give you a class card? Livia taunted. Damn it, can't you just keep your mouth shut? Haven't you been tired enough from this battle? Rin Inbin glared at Livia, his face filled with displeasure. Both Ilya and Mayu had helpless expressions. After all, neither of them would have any objections if the class card was given to Ilya or Mayu. Compared to Rin Inbin and Livia, who didn't like each other, Ilya and Mayu's relationship was quite good. Wuming then remembered that he still had the class card in his hand. Wuming looked at the saber class card, then at Rin Inbin and Livia, then at Ilya and Mayu. Then, Wuming made a decision. Then let's use the simplest rock-paper-scissors game to decide who to give this class card to. Rin Inbin let out a strange cry. Livia also frowned. It seemed that the two of them couldn't accept this method. I think this method is not bad. Ilya touched her small face and looked at Rin Inbin and Livia cautiously. In the end, Rin Inbin and Livia sighed and sent out Ilya and Mayu to decide the winner of the class card. It was a best-of-3 game. In the end, under Rin Inbin's smug expression and Livia's resentful expression, Ilya defeated Mayu with a score of 3-2 and received the saber class card. Ilya carefully put away the job class card. No matter what, this class card was given to her by her big brother. She had to keep it well. Although she didn't care who the class card belonged to, seeing Ilya's happy expression after receiving the class card, Mayu was a bit jealous. At this time, Wuming patted Mayu's head and said, When we go back, I'll make you omelet rice. Wuming's gentle voice sounded. Mayu blushed and nodded. Although we still have a lot of questions, it's already very late. Let's wait until tomorrow to ask, Rin Inbin said. A wise decision. Then come to my house tomorrow, Wuming said. After discussing, Rin Inbin and Livia left first. Wuming, Mayu, and Ilya stayed behind. That was what Rin Inbin and Livia said. Aren't you Ilya's big brother? Then, I'll have to trouble you to send her home. You're Mayu's big brother. I have something to do, so I'll leave first. Remember to send Mayu home safely. Wuming felt helpless, but he didn't dislike it. As Tuskahar said, She didn't dislike straightforward people, and Wuming was the same. The fact that they could treat him with a normal attitude after knowing that he was a servant of a hero spirit's clone was enough to show their temperament. Wuming recalled Kalis and put Kalis back on Wuming's head. The ruby and sapphire returned to Ilya and Mayo's hands. "Let's go, Ilya. Mayu and I will send you home." Wuming held Mayu in Ilya's hands and began to walk toward Ilya's house. Wuming didn't like to use the portal anymore. Now, he liked to walk and enjoy everything around him. Unless there was an emergency or something important, Wuming wouldn't open the portal. On the way, Ilya carefully held Wuming's hand. "I feel that Big Brother is warmer than Big Brother's hand." Ilya couldn't help but compare Shiro Amiya and Wuming and put the scales on Wuming's side. Wuming, who didn't have the ability to read minds, naturally didn't know what Ilya was thinking. However, that didn't prevent Wuming from seeing Ilya's restraint. Then, Wuming spoke. "Ilya, what do you feel today?" "What do you mean, how do I feel?" Ilya reacted and asked in a panic. Wuming smiled lightly. The cooperation with Mayu, the blow that killed Castor, was quite good. Speaking of this matter, Mayu reacted. Mayu asked, "Why did Ilya choose that way?" Then Ilya smiled and said, "Because I believe in Mayu." Mayu froze for a moment. Then her face turned red. "You guys still have a lot of difficulties to go through. You should know that we've only recovered 5 class cards. What's left is the most secretive assassin class card and the most violent berserker. Don't be careless." Silent reminded. "Big Brother's right." Sapphire said, "Today, if it weren't for Big Brother here, we would probably all be killed in the mirror world." It's really lucky. Speaking of which, Mayo's brother is really strong. He can even defeat Saber. Ruby flew beside Wuming and said, "It can only be said that the other party only has a mana block. It doesn't take much effort to deal with this kind of thing. If it really is a servant, the outcome is not certain." Wuming explained. Speaking of which, Ilya began to ask, "Where did Big Brother and Mayu live before?" When this sentence came out, Mayo's expression became nostalgic. Chapter 149. After Ilya said those words, the atmosphere changed. How should she put it? The atmosphere at the scene gave Ilya the feeling that she had said something wrong. At that moment, Wuming said, "Ilya, I won't answer this question. If there's a chance, you don't need to know this now." Ilya nodded as if she understood. After sending Ilya home, in order to avoid being discovered by her family, Wuming directly opened the teleportation door. Then, after saying goodbye to Ilya, Wuming directly brought Mayu back to the Shuayu mansion through the teleportation door. Seeing that Mayu was not calm, Wuming directly opened the teleportation door. "It's okay, Mayu. I'll take care of everything." Wuming comforted Mayu. "No, Brother Wuming, let's take care of it together. I have the ability now." Mayu looked at Wuming with a determined face. Wuming was stunned, then smiled. Stroking Mayu's head, Wuming said, "I know. Go to sleep first. Collect the class cards first, then think about other things. After that, I'll collect the class cards with you." Mayu nodded obediently. After Mayu fell asleep, Wuming came out of the house. Then, "Master, are you going to collect the class cards?" Kalis asked as the golden-green dragon horn flashed. "There are only 2 class cards left. Apart from Assassin Mayu and Ilya, they can't deal with Berserker." Wuming continued. "They were almost wiped out when facing Saber, not to mention Berserker, whose sacrifice's rationality greatly increased. Then, do you need to train Mayu and Ilya?" Kalis asked. Wuming thought for a moment, then said, "You could do a small amount of training first, and then do a large amount of special training after you collect all the rank cards." "Yes, Master." Wuming sat in the courtyard, looked at the moon, and fell into deep thought. The next day, after Wuming sent Mayu to school, Wuming took advantage of the time when he was back and went to a coffee shop. Walking into the coffee shop, Wuming ordered a cup of coffee. As if he was waiting for someone, Wuming sat down and drank leisurely. A moment later, Rin Enbin ran in, panting. Rin in Osaka ordered a cup of coffee and sat down. "Phew, I'm not late, am I? Rin Inbin said. Because he ran over. His face was very red. Wuming shook his head and smiled. It doesn't matter if I'm late. After all, I have plenty of time. At this time, Livia casually walked into the coffee shop, elegantly ordered a cup of coffee, walked to Rin Inbin's side, sat down, and drank leisurely. Although the two of them didn't like each other, they were facing a heroic spirit. When they had a common goal, the two of them could still work together. The two of them calmed down and looked at Wuming. Okay, now it's time to talk about your problem, Rin Inbin said. I have a rank card, Wuming suddenly said. What? Rin Inbin and Livia exclaimed in shock. The sudden voice caused everyone in the coffee shop to look over. Rin Inbin and Livia looked at the others with an apologetic smile. Then, Rin Inbin and Livia calmed down and looked at Wuming again. You have a rank card? What's going on? Livia asked. Yes, aren't there only 7 rank cards? Now, Leyline shows that there are 2 remaining cards that haven't been recycled. Rin Inbin also asked. Wuming calmly took a sip of coffee, then said, there are more than 7 rank cards, and I have a self-conscious rank card. Before you came to Winterwood City, the previous rank card recycler entered my mirror world and wanted to recycle me, but she didn't succeed. After that, I reached an agreement with Zelik, and I stayed in Winterwood City. Although Wuming said his origin, Wuming hid a lot of things. So, can you tell us what your rank is? Rin Inbin asked, but he seemed to be very careful. After all, this was also considered as information gathering. Caster, Wuming said directly without hesitation. Caster, Rin Inbin and Livia repeated in a strange way. Rin Inbin and Livia thought that Wuming was a lancer. After all, last night, Wuming used a white spear to fight against Saber, who was known as the best rank, and he slightly suppressed Saber. Such an existence turned out to be a caster. I don't need to hide it from you. The reason why I hid it from the Magic Association is that I hate trouble. Wuming said. Rin Inbin and Livia weren't stupid enough to ask, aren't you afraid that we will spread your existence? The other party was a heroic spirit's clone servant, and he was also a caster who was good at magic. The two of them didn't think that someone who could fight against Saber didn't know magic. Moreover, the other party was a caster. Maybe his magic was better than his martial arts. I won't ask about the matter between you and Meiyu. I just want to know if you can really love Meiyu. Livia asked. Wuming smiled at this, as if he was ridiculing her, but also as if he was helpless. If even I don't love Meiyu, then no one in this world will love her. Is that so? I understand. Livia heard the feelings in Wuming's words, which wasn't something that a hypocrite like him could say. Then, Rin Inbin also began to ask, I won't ask about your relationship with Ilya. I just want to know if you will continue to help us recover the rank cards. Rin Inbin said, Of course, the next 2 rank cards are a bit too disadvantageous for you. I will be responsible for assisting you. Wuming replied, Indeed, Assassin and Berserker are indeed very disadvantageous for us now. Livia analyzed. Assassin who specializes in assassination. Berserker who sacrifices his rationality to increase his attributes. Why are these servants so difficult to deal with? Rin Inbin complained. Moreover, the mirror world will shrink due to the continuous recovery of rank cards. If Berserker is the last to be recovered, then the mirror world is likely to become abnormally narrow. If Assassin is the last to be recovered, then it will be advantageous. Then that's it for now. I will find time to train Meiyu and Ilya. After drinking the last sip of coffee, Wuming left the coffee shop. Livia also finished her coffee, put down the cup, and then very elegantly said to Rin Inbin, Then I will also leave first, Rin Inbin. I don't want to continue to see your face. Rin Inbin angrily looked at Livia leaving the coffee shop, regardless of the temperature of the coffee, and finished it in one gulp. Really? Do I like to see your face that much? Rin Inbin said. Waiter, the bill. Rin Inbin said. Hello. This is the bill for the 3 of you. Please take a look. The waiter handed a bill to Rin Inbin. Then, Rin Inbin's expression was painful as he paid the bill. Chapter 150. In the afternoon, Wuming arrived at the entrance of Sui Kun Garden Academy's primary school and waited quietly. There were parents, older brothers, and sisters all around waiting for school to end. After waiting for a while, the bell rang, and the originally quiet school became lively. Primary school students walked out one after another. After waiting for a while, Mayu and Ilya walked out. As Wuming had told Mayu to bring Ilya over after school, Ilya, who originally wasn't going the same way as Mayu, walked together with Mayu. Brother Wuming. Mayu called out to Wuming and quickened her pace. Big brother. Ilya waved her hand and also quickened her pace. Mayu, Ilya, how was it? Did you have fun today? Wuming crouched down and asked the two. Man, I had a home economics class today. I specially prepared a cake for Brother Wuming. Mayu said as she raised the small box in her hand and showed it to Wuming. Then I have to give a good try. Mayu's cooking will definitely be very delicious, Wuming said with a smile. Ilya was not to be outdone. She raised the box in her hand and said, I also made it. Although it might not look as good as Mayu's, the taste won't be bad either. Seeing Ilya's flushed face due to excitement, Wuming and Mayu couldn't help but smile. Then, Ilya, did you have good class? Wuming asked. Hey, I fell asleep in class today. It was Mayu who woke me up. Ilya rubbed her head in embarrassment and said with a smile. Wuming stroked Ilya's head and said gently, It's a little too much for Ilya to sleep after midnight. It's normal to sleep during the day, but you can't fall behind in your homework. However, the two of them didn't notice that there were 4 people watching the conversation between Wuming, Mayu, and Ilya in a corner not far behind them. As expected, Ilya and Mayu's abnormal behavior today is because of that handsome guy, a mature girl with green pigtails, Kurihara Narika said. That might be Mayu's older brother. I've never heard of Ilya having an older brother like that. Keihua, the girl with short black hair, Gue Mimi said. But there's no way to explain Ilya's abnormality. Beautiful. The pink twin-tailed Nana Moriyama squinted her eyes and said, Speaking of which, why are we hiding here? Can't we just go over and say hello? Yu Jinza Longzi, the energetic girl with yellow hair and 2 buns, idiot, said. Kurihara Urahana punched Yu Jinza Ryuko. It hurts. What are you doing, Keihua? Yu Jinza Ryuko said with tears in his eyes as he held his head. You idiot, we're here to follow Ilya and Mayu. How can we show ourselves? That's right. Also, we're following them for Ilya and Mayu's happiness, Nana Moriyama said. However, they didn't know that Wuming had already discovered them. Mayu, Ilya, those over there are your classmates, right? Wuming faintly pointed at the corner where the 4 of them were hiding. Ilya and Mayu turned to look. As expected, it was their classmates. It's them, Mayu said in surprise. It's Ryuko and the others. Then, Ilya waved her hand and shouted at the people hiding in the corner. Now it was awkward. The 3 of them walked out in embarrassment. Only Yu Jinza, Ryuko casually greeted Mayu and Ilya. Yo, Ilya, Mayu. Then, Ilya asked in confusion, What are you doing hiding there? Yu Jinza Ryuko was about to tell the truth when Kurihara Urahana and the others covered his mouth. We're playing a game with others, Nana Moriyama said with a smile. Yes. Playing a game. Kurihara Urahana and Gue Mimi agreed. Although she was still curious about their behavior, Ilya didn't pursue it too much. As for Mayu, when they were discovered by Wuming, she had already seen through their intentions. By the way, is this Mayu's brother? The gentle Gue Mimi asked. Just as Ilya was about to introduce Wuming, Wuming spoke first. You're Mayu and Ilya's friends, right? I'm Mayu's brother, Shoayu Wuming. Thank you for your hard work. If there's anything wrong with my sister, please forgive her, Wuming said with unusual gentleness. So gentle, Kurihara Urahana, Nana Moriyama, and Gue Mimi exclaimed. So cool, Yu Jinza Ryuko said with starry eyes. Only the heavens knew why she thought that the gentle Wuming was cool. Kurihara Urahana pressed Yu Jinza Ryuko down and looked at Wuming apologetically. Are you going home? If you don't mind, let's go together. Wu Ming's smiling face struck the few of them, causing those who originally wanted to refuse to nod their heads as if they were possessed by gods and gods. Wu Ming had told Sila in advance yesterday that he wanted to bring Ilya to stay at his house for a night and accompany Meiyu. Hence, Ilya, Wu Ming, and Meiyu walked on the road to the Shuayu mansion. Coincidentally, the four of their houses could be reached from this road. Hence, the following situation was created. Wu Ming held Meiyu's hand while Ilya followed beside him. Yu Jinzuriyuko and the other three followed behind them. Ilya kept chatting with Wu Ming. Meiyu would say something from time to time. Gradually, the four people behind Wu Ming stopped talking and looked at this scene. After a few minutes, Nana Moriyama said, "By the way, what's the relationship between Ilya and Brother Wu Ming?" "Huh? My relationship with Big Brother?" The sudden question stunned Ilya. She stopped, and the others also stopped. Wu Ming replied, "Actually, Ilya's adoptive brother Shiro Amiya and I are adoptive brothers." Oh, isn't that Big Brother's big brother?" Yujinza Ryuko shouted. "He is both Meiyu's big brother and Ilya's big brother. What a strange relationship." Kurihara Takika pushed up her glasses and said, It can be considered so," Ilya said somewhat unnaturally. "Then does Ilya like Big Brother more, or Big Brother's big brother more?" Nana Moriyama still had a smile on her face, but Wu Ming seemed to see the word conspiracy on her face. "Huh? AI, 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 AI. Ilya shouted in panic, her face instantly turning red. "You and Brother Wu Ming are so happy. Could it be that Ilya has fallen in love with Big Brother's big brother and Meiyu's big brother?" Ilya's face instantly turned red. Her eyes turned into circles, and she fainted. "Ilya!" Everyone's exclamation reached the sky. "You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.